Do like, are you sure?
Yes, it did. We're live. We're live. It's crazy.
Hooray!
Hey, people, welcome. Welcome. I don't know where now I gotta go to the channel. I gotta go to my channel to find is that what I gotta do?
I don't even see the link on your channel.
Okay. Hold on. Gotta
I'm
be there.
holding.
It's gotta be there. You know, it says I have different numbers of videos everywhere.
I know, depending on like
Yeah. It's
public and unlisted videos and
yeah. My channel trailer has an 89% like ratio. I have no idea where this is streaming though. I can't. Oh, here's a link. Links. Okay. I'm going to copy it. I'm going to tab over. No, I don't need to tab. Right here. I'm going to send it to you. Then I need to put it in my.
Go to Buzz. Is this the live page? Going to be?
Should be. I'm going there.
My phone looks insane right now. All painfully honest tech notifications.
Okay. So now, yes, we are live. Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness gracious.
Oh sweet God! Why does it do that?
Yeah, it doesn't start.
I copied the link and it was like just a full on like Facebook Messenger tracking link.
So how in the hell do I? Where's the chat? Where's the freaking chat?
What? I think we got to go to the actual watch page for that.
I'm on the watch page. I'm on the watch page. I don't understand. Okay.
The video for me is just an exclamation point.
Really?
Yep.
Well, I can see myself. I just can't see the chat. I want the chat.
It's not my subscription feed or anything. This is weird.
Why is it sucking? Why is it sucking?
The previous attempts at a stream have a lot of views already.
I know. For crime's sake. My channel. I'm going to go to my channel again and see what I can find.
Why is YouTube so complicated?
It shouldn't be this complicated. Not in the slightest. So now I'm seeing the video again. What the fuck? Is there anybody out there? There's only one. Oh, we're private. How are we private?
That happened last time too.
Yeah. For criminy sake. I'm hitting edit
Okay, I'm
video.
awaiting another notification.
Okay. So we are private. I'm going to go public. I'm going to paste in this link. If it lets me, it won't let me paste in a link. Damn it. Okay, it won't let me tweet from here. So saving changes.
I'm about to tweet it when I see the thingy.
All right. I'll retweet your tweet, even though it's my show.
Come on, notifications or something. Where the hell is it?
I don't know. Why do you ask me these things?
Oh, okay. I see it. So it's on the page, but it didn't send out a notification.
What?
And it's not in my subscription feed. Oh wait, no, it's on. It's live now. Okay.
Okay.
Christ.
For God's sake.
YouTube is the worst.
It's like, you'd think they'd never done this before. You'd think we'd never done this before. But yet.
Did you know that when you want to stream live, by default, it's private?
I did not know that.
Because why would anyone want to see the live stream?
Yeah, when you say go live,
Yeah,
Wouldn't
Derek
you
said I
think,
didn't get
like
the notification, but found it.
okay, so but you did get a notification?
No, I just saw it I saw it in my subscription feed.
Oh, for criminy sake. So, I gotta get into my Twitter. I gotta get in my Twitter and do this thing.
7 people watching. I did the
7?
tweeting of the thing.
Okay, that's
8
good.
watching. Let's go, number go.
Yep, yep.
9.
9 people. Critical mass is being achieved slowly.
10. It's 9. Damn it.
Oh, shoot. Okay. I think this is the one that I need to retweet.
Why didn't it send a notification? What a joke.
I don't know. It's a good question. It's a very good.
14. Oh.
Okay.
17. It's getting crazy.
Okay, we're getting there. We're getting there. Derek, thank you for being here. This is the first time I've done the whole thing live like this.
What do you mean?
Well, I mean, I've done live chats with, but then try to do an actual, I'm trying to do an actual podcast is,
Yeah.
Which
it's our way of life, and
I don't really, I'm not very precious about any of it. But
20 watching. Let's go, baby.
Build it up.
Okay.
Randy's here.
That's what's up. Gotta love our Randall.
Bliss Monkey trademarked. Did you really trademark that number or that name? Because if you did, I'm impressed. I want to trade. Maybe I should trademark Painfully Honest Tech.
Wait, you don't have that name trademarked? I feel like that's not something to say on a live stream.
I have evidence that I've been using it. So anybody tried to steal it, then I could just say, look, you're a pain in my ass. So, John.
Okay, are we just gonna trust YouTube to do its thing?
I don't know. Let's do some pre-show and say hi to the people.
Okay.
Fasty the fatty. The fatty. I said your name, Fasty the fatty. I don't know what that means.
Here to please the people. Here to please the people.
That's my goal. Yeah.
I love how Randy always refers to himself as daddy.
I don't understand. I mean, my dad is dead.
So's mine.
So, I mean, is it something else?
Maybe he becomes daddy. That's like the default. When your dad dies, Randy becomes daddy.
That seems like it's probably a bad deal for him. We've got 33 watching.
What a question. Does Apple sucks?
Does Apple wear socks? What?
Man. El Jefe. Okay, it seems like we're starting to get a little.
Okay, yeah, we're getting in there. We're getting. Randy is here. Gian Navarro. Yo, does Apple sucks? Well, I'm sure we'll get into that.
Does Apple sucks?
I've got a hair on my windscreen.
I started using this like metal mesh sort of deal instead of like a regular foam one.
I'm doing the foam one mostly because it
and plus this is a side address mic, so
yeah. I see this is a top address.
That looks like it's like custom made for the SM7 or the
the 57. Yes, it is. It is in fact custom made for the 57. So that's cool, I guess.
I'm trying to watch 2 streams at once.
I know. I'm trying to get rid of watching me in the stream. Okay, El Jefe trying to. How can you like? Hopefully, it's 2 different streams and not just 2 versions of ours. Because it's 2 versions of ours, we have really screwed up.
I would hope so.
We're live in 2 places on YouTube.
I can't believe I'm doing this, but I'm just trusting Brian with the show, and it's just gonna go out without me watching it beforehand. So we just got hope for the best.
It's your own little version of the trust fall.
Yeah, except a few thousand people watch The Fall before I see it, and it might go terribly wrong.
I never watch my videos before I put them out, so should be fine.
That's scary. But you edit them, right?
Yeah,
Yeah, I
I
literally
I edit in
I
double
recorded
time.
it, and I'll not see the final product before everybody else.
Yeah, I edit in double time, so I have no idea what it really looks or sounds like.
Oh, by the way, did you get my message that you're on Spotify
I did get that message.
and iHeartRadio soon?
iHeartRadio.
I can't
iHeartRadio
believe it is
seems
that,
like an
but
idea that just is, like, destined for death, but it's like, yes, I wanna listen to my local FM radio station on
I've
the internet.
literally never heard a podcast on iHeartRadio.
I haven't did not know they offered such things. So, uh,
I do.
I guess that's good, you know, more eyeballs and ear holes for the Painfully Honest Tech podcast. I sorta I sorta wish I would have just called it the Painfully Honest podcast. Then I could talk about anything.
I mean, you can literally change it anytime you want.
I know, but I feel like brand I gotta have some brand, yeah, I gotta adhere to my brand
Right.
in order to build up my ability to then create a personal brand.
If it was the Painfully Honest podcast, it would be the PIP.
That would be fun. That would be fun.
PIP. Where's the apple sheep?
I don't know. I don't know. I was listening to like I said, I was listening to John and Drew's podcast, on my way home today, and you guys are so effing cordial.
What do you
Yeah.
mean?
You're just so nice to each other.
The fire and the fury has worn down a bit. That was like, when I remember because like he was telling me off camera about his editor that really hated me, and that's why he made a video about me in the first place. Like he didn't know who I was, but his editor hated me, and the editor said, "Hey, make a video about this guy." And then obviously when I see that video, I'm like, "Well, you oughta." And of course I reply, and it just is. But once you actually talk, you're less mean and less fire and fury.
Unless you don't talk for a while and then you can get mean again, because that's what I did. He and I haven't talked for a while,
Is
so
there like a portion, like an amount of time where all bets are off?
it feels like maybe 3 months, because I hadn't talked to him in a bit, and then I started making those response videos and stuff,
Mhm.
and then I
Well, I
start
promised him that I'm still gonna make fun of him. So
yeah. I started it.
I can't just like not do that. I still have to do that.
Yeah, of course. I started a Twitter fight with him late last week,
I saw
so
that. I saw that.
yeah. Oh, yeah, and Andrew Edwards joined in. I didn't know that Andrew was like the Apple warrior that he seems to be, but
Andrew Edwards is the warrior for anything that needs defended.
okay.
Yeah.
I guess somebody has to have
He
that
did it
job.
to me again today on Twitter about this time about YouTube stuff.
Oh, okay.
My YouTube advice was incorrect, and he knows because he got hand selected for a master class with YouTube and has a partner manager and all this other stuff.
That's great. Um,
Yep.
I think we are gonna talk about the Surface. You're talking about the new Surface Go,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
which is different than the Surface Pro in some way that I'm
It's
small.
not the Surface Pro, it's the Surface Go.
Go. Yeah, they wanna be hip with the kids, I guess.
Which I'll wait for the actual podcast to talk about that, but I feel like it's kind of a weird, neat little thing.
Yeah, you'll have to explain it to me because my old man brain couldn't parse it out.
No, it's not just your old man brain. It's kind of confusing. Like you can't really tell who Microsoft's targeting with it.
Right. Yeah, it's I guess similar. All right, we're still pre-showing. We're pre-showing.
Yeah.
This is pre-roll, so we don't need to jump in. We've got Zach in the house, though. You know,
Right. The hell was that noise? Is that Discord?
I don't know. I don't have
I just
Discord up.
got my ears went off and I have no idea what that sounds from. Oh well.
It doesn't matter. So, John says that Lewis Rossman burned Drew in the Apple fight. You mean the one that happened a while back? Yeah. I I don't know. Have we
I
talked
love the
about
timing. I love the timing of that video from Lewis, though. It was like we all had our say. It went away, and then a month later, Lewis was like, "I'm gonna make a video about this now."
I guess all of his myriad followers, were bothering him about it. So he felt the need to speak. Um, I don't know, have we talked about that video?
You're
Um,
gone. Your video's gone. You
why
disappeared.
why did it go away?
I don't know why.
Don't know.
$50 Canadian, so it's
Starting slow
14
tonight, Zach.
cents.
Starting slow tonight. Working your way up. Thank you very much. Studio cleanup, man, everything has been crazy. We're moving on the 20th, and, that has been we've been trying to get set for that. We just got back from vacation. Vacation, ugh, went on a cruise.
No one talks about vacation like you do. Like, vacation.
Well, you know, my choice of vacation places would never be the places that we go. So, we did go to Joshua Tree and visit the national park and stay at the Joshua Tree Inn, which was fun. I don't know how much in the average person's life people would know who Graham Parsons is, other than maybe he's the person that discovered Emmylou Harris. But anyway, he died at that motel, and
Oh, yikes.
so they still like they rent out the room in which he died. And
That's weird.
yes, I'm make my studio great again. I can't honestly, I can't wait for this new studio because I have a workshop area. That's a pretty big room that I can put all the stuff, like the desk and all those things. And then I have an entire garage bay
Mhm.
um, that I can then turn
Are you
into.
moving because of the flood, or was that already planned?
The move was already planned. We're
Okay.
basically kind of we're downsizing, I guess. Like our current house is 4 bedrooms and has three and a
Mhm.
half or two and a half bathrooms, and we're going to a house that has 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom and a toilet in the laundry room. It makes me feel like I'm at home. Back in West Virginia, there was always a toilet in the basement. So,
Uh, I mean, I wish I had a toilet in the basement because that's like I feel like that's the ultimate place to poop.
it's true. It's
Away
ve
from civilization, underground,
yeah.
in a
Y
bunker.
I mean, your natural instinct to dig a hole and bury it is is being satisfied by being underground, I guess.
Shut up,
So,
Zach. Dude, we dealt with the silliest, most ridiculous thing possible on Twitter today. So, our theme, like intro music, was made by Randy, like custom made it for us.
right,
Then Randy, it was really smart on his part, released the whole mix of the song.
right.
So the intro from Pitch Tech is only a few seconds. Randy released almost 2 minutes of a full song, and people really, really love it. But that opened up the floodgates to, hey, can I use this song too?
No.
And exactly, and people don't know who to ask. I've been getting emails about it. Randy's been getting emails about it, and somebody tweeted Randy, and it's really sad because this was such a simple thing. Somebody tweeted Randy, and he goes, hey, is it okay if I use parts of that song that John's not using for the intro to my tech show in the near future? And Randy quoted the tweet because we were getting a bunch of questions about it. So to add
Right,
context, Randy says, "Hey, thanks, but no, the songs I make are just for the people I make them for. If you're interested, you can DM me and we can talk about it." And then after that, after the context is there, he continues to say for everyone else that was asking the questions, also, it's not okay to steal the song moving forward. Like if you're looking at this tweet and you're thinking about using the song, don't do it. Well, that guy just freaked out and assumed that Randy said or was accusing him of stealing it and said that we were ruining his reputation and it was slander. And literally, dude, this one little thing, one little tweet just all day of just garbage nonsense. And of course, I yelled at the guy, but then it was like, okay, he's clueless. And I looked at his Twitter history and his YouTube history, and it's all literally doing the same thing to other YouTubers, like saying nonsense to them and trying to get attention. And so I blocked him just off the pure fact that I didn't want to see it anymore. And of course, he saw it as, oh, it's a victory. I made him mad and he blocked me. And so he's sharing screenshots, and then his followers jumped in. A few of our followers jumped in, siding with him that didn't actually like do the actual proper research and look at the past conversation. It was a total mess. Like the silliest thing I've ever dealt with. Does that ever happen to you? Just like one little, very, very simple tweet turns into this whole thing because people can't read.
I don't recall that has happened to me, honestly. Like, probably not for any reason other than nobody follows me on Twitter. But
also, you don't stir up nonsense. You know what? No one stirred up nonsense. He made the nonsense. It didn't exist before him.
But this is the second random nonsense maker that you've had to deal with in recent times.
Just my whole life is random nonsense, I think, Jason. I think that's it. I think I just accept the nonsense and just open my heart to it.
Yeah, that's probably not a good idea. You get some sort of blood disease that way.
I think you and I should just switch Twitters. I will become the JTL.
Oh man, my Twitter can be so boring though. You would not enjoy my Twitter because
you don't know that. Maybe I will. Maybe I want the opposite.
I don't know if I don't know if I want your Twitter.
What are the odds of that? One of the guys that was defending him is literally watching the thing. I mean, the odds are pretty good, but still.
Well, yeah. It's okay, Joe. John just likes to stir up trouble.
I'm a troublemaker.
Yeah, I feel like I'm gonna sing like one of those claymation Christmas songs now. I don't know.
I'm gonna pull up the topics you sent me for the show.
Yeah, well, there are others too.
I didn't know you could do this with Flipboard. I didn't know this was a thing, but it's really cool.
Yeah, usually when I do the podcast and I have stuff that I want to be aware of, I just throw them into a magazine, as they call it. But so no updates on the MKBHD 1+ thing. I did tweet at him to tell him that I had made a video, and I just wanted to let him know. I hope that's okay. So
someone if it's not you have topics for this show, it's a miracle. Do you have a history of just winging it?
Oh no. I mean, when I do the short version where it's just me, I have usually 4 to 5 stories that I kind of talk about, and maybe I don't really stay focused very well on the stories. I might just talk a lot, but there's a loose plan in place every time I go on the air. So, but is this the
Am I your first guest on the podcast, like on the actual podcast?
Officially on the actual podcast, John, you are the first.
Dude, you were my first guest.
I know. Well,
look how it worked out.
Yeah.
What a beautiful thing.
Yeah. So I think things that we need to talk about other than these news stories, which we don't have to talk about long. Some of them are just,
happened.
Worth talking about briefly. But anyway, should we start the podcast? Are we ready now? Are we convinced that the stream is
You're the boss.
stable?
You're the boss, man.
Okay. So I'm going to do the intro. Folks, while we're doing the podcast, of course, we will be looking at the chat, but we might not.
Do you need anything from me? Do I need to record anything?
I was just going to take the audio from. I'd just download the YouTube thing.
Okay, cool. As long as you have a plan. I didn't know if you had a plan.
Yeah, I wanted to get all fancy and have Logic open so I could play the intro music and
yes, I see.
all that stuff.
YouTube didn't want to work.
Well, I couldn't get my camera to work, and then YouTube was fucking up. And all right, I'm gonna stop cursing because apparently that's a bad thing. I want to be a channel for the people.
For the people.
There's one guy who first I did a video where I cursed a little bit. Okay, and after I tell the story, we'll start the podcast. And he said, "You're intelligent. You're educated. You don't need to curse."
Dude, I hate those. I hate that argument. I hate that.
That's a stupid argument.
You can't swear because it means you can't read.
It means that you're crass, John. You're
Yeah.
of a lower class of person.
Okay. Well,
That's what cursing means.
seems fine to
Um,
me.
yeah, yeah. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I remember that argument from my youth. If I wanted to be a fine, upstanding citizen, then I had to not curse. And then I realized I didn't really want to be that kind of fine, upstanding citizen, so I cursed. And anyway, okay, so this guy, he says that to me, right? And then
Okay.
I made a video about my review on the AKG Mass Drop K7XXs.
Hmm.
And I said they were Chinese feeling in terms
Okay.
of like the quality of how they were made, you know.
I love the experience that we have with the internet
Yeah.
because I already know where this is going. I already know just based off of that where people on the internet would take this.
He lost his shit. He lost his shit and started commenting all over the place, and he was like, you're racist." I'm like
I get that all the time. I get that all the time.
I'm like,
When I talk, literally, if I say a Chinese phone manufacturer, that's not adding context to the manufacturer. That's just me being purely racist.
yeah, yeah, and that's what this is. Like, I'm somehow
Which
indicating
doesn't
that
that say
Chinese
more
people
about
are
them?
lesser quality.
Doesn't that say more about them that they use the term Chinese in a negative light? That's how they think about it?
I
Uh,
think it just means that that particular individual is absolutely insane. But but anyway, you know, he did this to me on like he commented on another video just the other day telling everybody he's like he was public service announcement. This guy's a racist because he said headphones felt like they were manufactured in China. I was like, okay, you know, I mean, I think anybody who handles a lot of electronic equipment, no matter what it is, any kind of technology, and they have had experience with stuff that's been manufactured to a lower standard in Chinese factories will
mhm.
know what I mean when I say feels a little like it's, you know, feels a little.
Imagine how hard our jobs would be, especially yours with a channel called Painfully Honest Tech, if you had to tiptoe around those people.
Yeah, I just delete his comments. That's I just see, I don't ban him because I somebody said this the other day, and I was like, "Oh, that's a good thing to think about." If you ban somebody, or if you mute them, or whatever it is in the chat in the comments, it's just you that doesn't see their comments. Everybody else
Well,
does.
that's okay. That's what I'm having a hard trying. Well, that to me, that's why I ban someone. Like I never ban someone because I want to like suppress them and what they say. I never do that. I don't care if like people see what they say. I hide them so I don't have to see it. That's why
Right.
I do it. So I don't have to deal with the negativity all day.
Well, I just delete their comments because
Fair enough.
life's too friggin' short to deal with people like, yeah, I'm all for free speech, but free speech that impinges upon, you know, my
Yeah.
right to not be called a racist is not the kind of free speech
Yeah,
I'm
they
interested in.
have the right to free speech, but you also have the right to not deal with bullshit. So
Yes. Um, yeah. Yeah, so, Mr. Tech makes the relevant comment that people like, Dave Lee and Justin C. and people like that who are of Asian descent, also use this as a
but
way of
that's
describing,
fine. It's not okay because you're just a white dude
"I'm an old white man."
and you're not allowed to say that stuff. Come
Yeah,
on now.
yeah, and
You
it's at
know
times
better,
like,
Jason.
I know I have to police my language so as to, you know, bend over backwards for everybody who might be offended by my, you know, perceived status of privilege.
It's only fair.
Yes, okay. Alright, we're getting into, you know, sociopolitics here. We don't need to go there. We need to start the, we need to start the podcast. So we're gonna do that in 3, 2, 1. Hey there, everybody out there. Welcome back. If you're here on YouTube watching, or if you're out there in podcast land podcasting, uh, no, I'm podcasting. You're not podcasting. Um, this is the Painfully Honest Tech Podcast, a tech podcast so honest it hurts.
It hurts your ears.
The transition to the buzzword, the little saying there. It's just not good on the podcast. Anyway, if you're not familiar with what this is, Painfully Honest Tech is a YouTube channel that is, I guess, run by me, and it features me, and my name is Jason Lewis, Jason T. Lewis. So you can find me over on YouTube and you can watch my videos, but I do this podcast specifically to sort of nail down a few different topics every week that have been interesting to me and maybe worth discussion.
Right.
For the first several episodes, I have talked to myself, and that has been fun. But now I am very fortunate to have as a guest on the show the one, the only Jon Prosser from Front Page Tech.
Oh, shucks.
There he is. There he is.
Thank you for having me, Jason. I'm so honored to be your first guest. You were my first guest. We've popped each other's cherries.
I don't know how I feel about that, man. I mean, that for me, that whole thing's come and gone decades ago. So
fair enough. Fair enough.
Popped our podcast cherries.
That's a thing, right?
Sure it is.
It sounds like a thing. It sounds like a thing.
All right, so the podcast is already going off the rails because that's just what happens when Jon and I start talking.
That's to be expected, yeah.
But there are some stories that we want to talk about, and I think maybe we should start with something topical, something that is of today, this day, and that is, Jon, the 10th anniversary of the App Store. It is.
Yeah.
That. Did you get all misty-eyed and nostalgic when you?
No.
Yeah, I mean,
no.
I remember it happening, and I was like, oh yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pay for any of that shit. And of course, over the years, I did pay for plenty of it, and never used any of it.
Okay, so like back when it was first introduced, were you ever like, that's not the future?
I don't know. I mean, I remember like with the early iPhones, it seemed like this is a way to organize this stuff into a more manageable resource for users of the iPhone.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't sure if they would be able to do it that way because it really sort of reminded me of just a version of the iTunes store. And it's evolved to be something different. It's evolved to be something way different than, buying a song on iTunes. So I remember thinking that it was something that could be cool, but I don't think any of us could have like looked 10 years ahead and had really any idea how integral iPhones and smartphones and would become in our lives, and how the apps would really become extensions of what we do. I mean, there's so much that we can do just within inside of our phones that we used to have to carry like a date book and a notebook.
Some of us did, Jason.
Okay.
One of us carried around a date book and a phone book, and the other one carried around a Game Boy Color.
Yes, you are younger than me, Jon.
I am.
So that might have been what you were doing 10 years ago. I don't think I could afford an iPhone at the time that the App Store.
What was the price point when it first launched? The original one, iPhone price.
So it was it was the 3GS that was current at the time that the App Store launched. So
$399 to $599 original iPhone,
and that's in 2008 money.
Yeah,
and I had just graduated from graduate school in 2007. So like $600, $300, $400 was a lot of money. My previous phone was like one of those Samsung flip phones. Have you ever seen the one that had the transport controls play fast forward back?
Chocolate? Was that the chocolate? Oh no, the LG made chocolate.
Yeah, this was a Samsung phone that was made completely of metal, and it had a little.
Were there speakers on the hinge?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember that one. Yes.
Yeah, and it had a little window where you could see what songs were playing or whatever.
Yep, it was like an MP3 player phone thing.
Yep. and I never
Yeah.
used it as
And
an MP3
Verizon had
player.
their own music service. You could buy music from Verizon.
Yeah, which was a bad
Wow.
idea at the time and
Wow, I
absolutely
forgot
ridiculous.
all about that.
Yeah, but I that phone was really cool, um, and I still have it. I don't think there are any
What was it
live bands.
called? Samsung MP3 phone. Man, I got that. Way to bring a memory back.
Yeah, so well, that and the Game Boy, right? So,
Right, right. Game
yeah,
Boys are still expensive. There's a store called The Exchange where it's like old video game stuff, and
right.
they're selling Game Boy Colors for like $50. I swear that's what I bought a Game Boy for back
Well,
in the day.
now it's vintage.
Yeah, and they're not
So,
making it anymore and whatever.
yeah, now it's vintage, so of course you gotta pay the vintage price. Um, I don't know. It's one of those things where, like, my whole vantage point and viewpoint of, like, what's cheap and what's expensive has been,
Mhm.
like, forever screwed to the point where I don't know what's cheap. It's, "Oh, that's expensive." "Oh, really?
Back in
Somebody."
the day,
Yeah,
again, I was a kid. We were different people.
yeah,
Someone had convinced me in school that the reason iPhones were special, and this was when you could only get an iPhone on AT&T's network.
right.
Someone had convinced me that iPhones were special because they had their own satellite in space that followed you around, so you always had service.
Okay, unless you
Yep,
were
that's what
holding
I
it wrong.
believed, unless you were holding it wrong. Yeah, that was, I don't know how I felt for that, but I believed that for a long time,
Uh,
till last year.
you were young. You know, in our younger years, we're very malleable.
Well, I needed someone to tell me why it was special, and the reason they came up with was because satellite space reasons.
Yeah. I remember when the App Store came out, like, and I finally did get an iPhone, I was really interested in doing stuff like having a writing program for my phone,
Mhm.
and this was pre the iPad came out, what, in, like, 2010?
Yep. Mhm.
So, there was a time there where you just had you just had the iPhone, and it was tiny, and, it's like, "Oh, I'm gonna really get some writing done on this thing." It's like,
There were
not
so
a
many people that, like, they learned their lesson from the iPhone. It was, like, the people that didn't believe the iPhone was the future, that when
right,
the iPad came out, there was credibility there. They're like, "Okay, I
right,
see what you're doing."
yeah, and really the iPad you could see partially because you'd already seen the iPhone, really transform like, tech and
Yeah.
people's lives as it connects to
Apple
tech.
had already proven themselves at that point.
So the iPad seemed like a natural thing because it's like, "Oh, it's bigger,
Yeah.
you you can type on
But
it."
that's something the iPad did that literally Android never figured out. It
Right,
wasn't just making things bigger. It was like there were native apps that were made for the iPad,
right.
and that's ultimately probably why Android tablets failed because Android never figured out how to not just be a bigger version of Android on the tablet.
Yeah, it's I mean, that's one of the things that was problematic. I think that iOS, because of how it was designed, was scalable to the larger form factor in a different way than Android was. I mean, I remember some really janky Android ports onto
Oh yeah.
tablets back in the day. It was like,
There
it
was like an
looks
RCA tablet that I can think of that was just a mess.
yeah, I remember they sold these like at Kmart, they sold a tablet that was like 99 bucks. And my assistant bought one because he was just like, "Hey, I wanna see if this is even gonna work at all." And it
Mhm.
didn't. Like, you couldn't do anything on it. It was just completely screwed up. Like,
Yeah.
and it wasn't that it was faulty. It was just that it was made with specs such that it couldn't run the operating system.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It was
And
I've been thinking about getting just like a tiny, like terrible tablet, probably a Fire device
yeah.
that literally its sole purpose is because I have an ultra wide monitor and
Mhm.
like right now I have you on one side and the chat on the other, but like it's like physically have to move my head to read the chat and look at
Right,
you. And I've been thinking about getting just a terrible Android tablet that sits here below the monitor where I can just read chat and that's the only thing it does. But
right.
like Other than that, I can't think of any other purpose for a consumer to buy an Android tablet.
If it was between an Android tablet and something else, I would just say buy an iPad Mini 2
Yeah.
for 100 and something bucks.
If it was between an Android tablet and a brick, I would say a brick.
Yeah, because I mean, I was really surprised earlier this year when I heard that Android, like Google was just basically punting, on Android tablets. They're like, nope, not supporting it. No support for this in
None of you are
Android
doing it
eight.
right. We're taking it away.
It's like, well, maybe I think I see what their plan was though, because now I think we're gonna see Pixel books become tablets.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm curious to see what Google has in their future because Project Fuchsia is a real thing, and there's going to be a day where they drop Android and they do have control over software and hardware like they
Right.
wanted to.
Right. Yeah,
Uh,
that's one of the things that I think I mean, that's great and everything. Google hasn't proven to anyone that they can actually handle that kind of responsibility.
no, no, they haven't.
It's uh, uh, Google does many things well, but conceive of and support hardware is not one of them.
No, support anything for over a year
Yeah.
is impossible for Google. They
Yeah,
just can't do it.
like they're like if every company were like a child in a classroom, Google would be that super smart child with hyperactivity disorder that
Yep,
was
just
like
can't figure out what they
spinning
want.
in circles in the corner, screaming at the top of his lungs, and
Yep,
then he would like stop and do something and then start spinning again.
yep. They're
That's
the
Google.
really good segue because of the chat. Someone mentioned the new Surface tablet since we're talking about
Oh yeah, the
tablets.
Surface Go. I read a couple of articles on this today, and honestly, and I saw a bunch of reviews on YouTube pop up, and I was like,
Embargoes.
yeah, I know. The fancy people get
The
to,
the
they've
fancy
had it
people.
for 2 weeks. The fancy people who have all those
I've
subscribers and
I've been
stuff.
trying to keep it a secret because I'm friends with Paul Thurrott, who is like older, been a Windows reporter or Microsoft reporter for a while. Thurrott.com is his website, and he's had it under embargo for a while. And yeah, it's been real hard not to say anything. But like, even if I did say anything earlier, would anybody care?
Yeah, I mean, it's a smaller Surface Pro, right?
Yeah, it's just what you would expect, just limited hardware for the limited price.
Right. I'm gonna look at the
I'm
so
more interested in like I think it's neat. If I'm being honest, I think it's a neat thing, but I can't figure out who in the hell Microsoft is trying to target. David said, "Big fan of What the Tech." Paul is awesome. Yeah, I'm friends with Andrew Zarian, and Paul. Yeah, so I'm confused about who the target demographic is for this Surface thing.
right.
Like, I want to say it's education because that price point makes sense, but like, it's still a lot of the headlines say, it's to compete with like iPads and Chromebooks, but like, it's still Windows. It's still not like the most mobile friendly thing.
Yeah, which is weird because Windows was redesigned as a mobile friendly
And that
operating
didn't
system.
yeah, Windows 8, that turned out well.
Yeah, and I still think, like, I don't know if anybody who uses Windows 10 in tablet mode, even on a tablet. I mean, it's like
Yeah, I
the
can't.
only like, when I had the Surface Book, I would take the screen off and use it as, like, an e-reader when I
Yeah.
at night,
Noah
and
said they wanna enter the tablet market. Noah, my dude, they've been in the tablet market.
yeah, that's what the whole Surface Pro line is,
They're just
and,
not doing it well.
yeah, eh but the thing is, like, I wanted to read on my Kindle, and if I went into tablet mode, there's no app available on the
Yeah.
Microsoft Store to for Kindle.
I
I was
think
like,
that's I mean, that ultimately was the downfall of Windows Phone too. It
right,
wasn't that, they built a bad mobile platform. It was that there was nobody developing apps for it. There was just no support there.
right. Which to me, I mean, Microsoft at the time, well, Microsoft is always a big player in the tech world, and I can't understand why Windows Phone didn't get the development unless it was that the platform was just so different from what people were already doing
Mhm.
in terms of, like, you build for the App Store and then you port to other
It probably
things.
just wasn't worth developers' time. Like Windows Phone never had enough market share to, spend time making an iOS app first, and then
Right.
if you have time, an Android app, and then also a Windows app. I just feel like there was never enough market share or
Yeah.
incentive for people to do that.
Yeah. So when I was using the Surface Book, it was just frustrating to have to be, uh, in in regular computer mode and reading in a browser window. Or no, it wasn't a browser window, but there was an app you could download, but it wasn't anywhere near as good as anything that was on the
Well, the
iPad
YouTube
or the
app for
yeah.
it would just open up. Someone mentioned would just open up a shortcut to the website, and I'm pretty sure after a while, Google just said no and just didn't like.
Yeah.
There was no native YouTube app for Windows.
Yeah. I mean, can you call a link with a with an avatar
Yeah.
an app? I mean, it's
That's like you making a desktop shortcut and being like, "Yeah, look, I'll open up this here program," and it's just opening up, your browser, and it's just going to the website,
yeah,
and the website is terrible.
yeah, and it's like it's just an alias that
Yeah.
you've placed on your desktop that goes to anyway. So I don't know what to think about this Surface Go because reading what it is, $400 is a decent price
Very
for,
decent, yeah.
but still it has the problem, and maybe this is a problem that Microsoft made for itself in the beginning, but it still has the problem that, like, if you wanna use it as it's fully intended to be used, you've gotta get the keyboard, you've gotta get the pen,
Yep. It
and
still ends up being a Windows PC. Like, you can't just use it like, the software almost encourages you not to use it as a mobile tablet.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, you certainly can, but whereas I feel relatively comfortable typing on the screen of an iPad, the keyboard that's offered in tablet mode for Windows
Oh
is
god.
not as user-friendly. So
Absolutely not.
it is almost like you have to have these accessories in order to make it worth your while to be
Mhm.
using the thing. And if they're targeting the education market, because and I think I remember maybe I heard this today or I read it in one of the articles, like Windows Microsoft used to own the education market,
Yeah.
and
Yes, they did.
they fell asleep at the wheel, and all of a sudden, like, Chromebooks and iPads and, all that stuff are taking up space.
That's the
Um,
really interesting thing about Microsoft, like, they never had to start from 0 and try to compete. In every angle that they failed, it was literally their fault, everywhere.
yeah,
They already
yeah,
they were always Microsoft, they were always one of the first to the game, and yet they still found ways to misstep and just fail on their own.
yeah. Uh, and the thing is, like, Microsoft sort of suffered from the same thing that IBM suffered from in the last generation turnover. IBM was the huge monolith that had been successful since the '30s or whatever,
Yeah.
and then upstart scrappy companies like, well, Apple was one of them, but even, like, those guys who started what is Compaq from Texas Instruments, they were the first real challengers to IBM for, like, a mobile computing solution and that kind of thing, and I don't think IBM ever anticipated that kind of competition, like,
Yeah.
Windows I remember in the '90s, Macs were expensive, and
Yep.
so they were prohibitively expensive for the majority of people, and Windows machines had more of a variance in price. So you could theoretically get yourself a gateway for $500 and it's a computer. Um, it might just be garbage, and I never understood why their logo was a cow.
Yeah.
But but,
They're all talking about Chromebooks in the chat, and that's great. Like, some guy said Chromebooks are super cheap, but they're not though. You can get Chromebooks that are cheap, but like the ones that Google makes aren't cheap.
yeah,
And if you think about it, like Chromebooks should never have had the opportunity to exist. Like Windows should be in the classrooms. You should be seeing Surface tablets in classrooms. But Microsoft failed on their own and opened the doors for something like the Chromebook to come in. And I
Right.
totally agree. Like Chromebooks are absolutely amazing for education specifically, because like what do you need a Chromebook for, or what do you need a laptop for, period, as a student? You just need to access like Google Docs, emails, and that's it. So I
Right.
think Chromebooks are perfect. The right Chromebook could be perfect though. That's my issue. I feel like Google doesn't even know what they're doing with that.
Yeah. I mean, I go every time I walk into a Best Buy or whatever, I look at the Pixel Book and I'm like, man, that thing is sexy. That thing,
It
the
is
design
though.
is
It really
good
is.
and it has the right feel and everything like that. But there's no way I'm spending $1,000 on a really hamstrung operating
That's the
system.
point. Like we are not in a hardware game anymore. We're past that. It's
Yeah.
all software. Like
Yeah.
software is going to make or break things in the future. And unfortunately, Chrome OS is just too light to justify a $1,000 purchase.
Right. Right.
Like
It's just
what kind of hardware do I absolutely need to run Chrome OS? You
right.
just cannot convince me that I need $1,000 to do it.
No. No. And I think it's kind of, similar to what we were talking about when we were talking about how the iPhone was proof of concept for the iPad. Um, Android was never proof of concept for Chrome OS. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
And while Chrome OS can run a lot of the programs that other computers can run, they're all like very, very different, very much smaller versions. And if you were only going to do like Google apps, if you were going to use docs and sheets and all that stuff, which I typically do. Those are my go-to. I don't
Yeah.
use sheets because
Absolutely.
I can't do math, but but so I use docs for like every script that I write, and
Yep.
so if I just wanted a machine where I could get to docs and use docs and that was all I needed it for, Chromebook would be great, but I
I
just
feel
don't
like I've
think.
been using Docs since I was in high school. Like I just haven't. Once it was out, it was like everything you needed, and it was like exactly targeted at the right people.
Right.
And the fact that it's free is the way it should have always been.
Yeah, the only docs didn't exist when I was in high school. Like,
Oh well, I bet you were typing on typewriters.
yes, we were. You could take a typing class. This is what's interesting to me now. Like, there was still very much that separation between like guys and girls in high school. Usually like the typing class was paired with like home economics or something like that.
Really?
Yeah, and then, guys were taking, like, industrial arts and wood shop. That was the so it's like,
I can
those were the
yeah,
2 things.
'cause home ec doesn't exactly scream learn how to type properly.
Yeah.
We had a keyboarding class that I took, but obviously that was properly named.
Yeah. I had so my grandparents actually owned a shoe store. Okay, it was a shoe store in the front. In the back, they sold vacuum cleaners and sewing machines and did repair.
Mhm.
Um, they also sold typewriters because typewriters, sewing machines, and vacuum
It's so
cleaners were
weird.
somehow connected together
Yeah.
in that era. So the first the first typewriter, quote unquote, that I had was a Brother word processor that had a, a keyboard and then like a little flip up screen that was maybe like 5 or so lines worth of text,
Mhm.
and otherwise it was just a computer or just a keyboard, like a typewriter keyboard.
Mhm.
And I used that almost all the way through college until my current wife, who then at that time became my girlfriend, her parents gave her like the Mac Classic 2
Okay.
for her senior year of college. And that was the one that had the tiny little 8-inch screen and
Oh, okay, yeah.
was like kind of a little chunk of stuff with a keyboard. Um, Beige box. It weighed a lot. And that was the first computer that I really ever had, open access to.
I learned
Uh,
how to type on a typewriter. Fun fact.
mm,
When I was a kid, my parents were like scared of computers, and that's why we
oh,
didn't
really?
have a computer. So they bought me a typewriter. That was like, I want a computer, and
Yeah.
they bought me a typewriter because that's the same.
Were they like, was it like a were they like Mennonites or something?
No, I mean, I think they were fine with it. It was more like the internet was this weird thing, and it was new, and your kid shouldn't be on the internet, or your kid
Yeah,
can
because
get look at boobies if they have a computer, sort of deal.
Black Sabbath could get into your mind.
Right. So I had a typewriter.
Yeah.
And then when I did get my first computer, it was this old Windows 98 machine, and I wasn't allowed to be on the internet. It wasn't connected to the internet at all. I could just open it up and make baseball fields in Microsoft Paint.
Cool.
Yeah, that's what
That
I used it for.
what like any specific baseball fields or just like generic baseball
Just a
diamonds?
generic, like, yeah, just use shapes in MS Paint and hope for the best.
Nice. Well,
Yeah.
I'm sure that's like your precursor to playing an actual video game.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. And my typewriter. So like, I what the hell am I doing? I used to use the typewriter to try to draw pictures before, like, what is it? ASCII art,
ASCII.
ASCII.
Yeah.
Yeah, before that was a thing, before, or at least before I knew about it. That's what since I didn't have a computer, I would literally learn how to make pictures with the letters on the typewriter, and it was just the worst thing.
Yeah, like I think I've seen you make that like weird smiley face that's all type. Yeah, and I'm just like,
Oh,
I
the
don't know.
like shrugging one.
Yeah, I'm like, what
Yeah.
is that? Like, you know, it's like, didn't you have TV? Like, couldn't you?
Oh man.
Yeah, I mean,
Ugh.
Master of the Universe or something had to be on, but or was that before your time? Did
Oh,
you like
Christ.
He-Man, Master of the Universe?
No, I'm face palming because that asshole's here that I mentioned in the pre-show on Twitter. He's here and he's looking for your help. I just
Oh, is that Maury QHD?
That's
Uh,
him. That's the very one.
all right. So Maury, we're recording a podcast now, so everything's gonna stay nice and calm.
I need to keep John as calm as possible.
Yeah. But if you're here still when we're post showing it, then I mean, maybe who knows? But
Have you seen the thing going on with Zone of Tech?
I did see that. I watched his video just as I was getting ready for the podcast. I mean, and you could see like he's totally shaken by this thing.
Oh yeah, he was not. I mean, wouldn't you be?
Well,
It's your livelihood.
I've gotten a copyright strike in the past. I mean, not when my channel was big at all, but I got a
Yeah, but imagine it being like your livelihood, your
right,
job, your source of income,
right.
and it's just you wake up one morning and it's gone.
And you just realize like how tenuous your relationship with this behemoth of a company really is.
Yeah, yeah.
It's uh yeah, I mean, I got my strike like before I started doing exclusively tech related stuff. I would sometimes do covers of songs that I just felt like doing, and I did a cover of Purple Rain by Prince,
Mhm.
um, which is
Oh, and Prince was very tight about that
yes,
stuff.
yes, he was. And this was before he died. So
I mean, we're talking about a man that wouldn't let his own music on Spotify and
yeah,
Apple Music and
yeah. So, but I didn't monetize it. I didn't monetize any of those things. Um, but at one point, YouTube was like, "Hey, you have videos that can be monetized. Do you want to click this button?" I was like, "Yeah, sure." And it monetized all those things that I didn't monetize on
mm.
purpose. And literally, like 2 days later, Prince's publishing company like shut me down. And I was like, "What?" And I tried to write them and say like, "Hey, this was just a mistake.
D- Dear sir, dear Prince, sir.
yeah, I was like, oh." And it is like 6 months of, you can't make videos longer than 15 minutes. You can't do live streams. You can't, it's like, I don't know if it's still the same punishment, but it was harsh. And it really like, it kind of
No,
dinged
it's
my,
relatively the same, yeah.
yeah, it dinged my enthusiasm and energy for doing YouTube for a while. Um, So I can't imagine what Zone of Tech, I think his name's Daniel. I can't imagine like having that same thing happen and you just crossed 500,000 subscribers
Yeah.
and it is
And it
the
was a
thing.
video that was years old.
Yeah. Yeah, and I get it, like, Apple doesn't that doing that kind of video was a violation of Apple's terms of
But
service,
that's my problem. Was
but,
it?
uh,
How
I
is the
mean
I understand how the practice can be against their terms of service,
right.
but making a video? Like, who says you can't do that? There's nothing in terms of service that Apple says, "Hey, don't make YouTube video about this."
Well, I think it might have been that, um, that downloading and installing a beta outside of the developer beta program was against the terms of service, and
Yes,
so
but I get that. But how is that against how can you not make a video about that?
I guess because it's teaching people how to break Apple's
But
terms of
that's like
service.
saying, "Oh, well, taking your device apart is against our terms of service or against warranty, so we're gonna take down every video that shows an open MacBook."
Yeah, I know. It's arbitrary. It's totally I mean, I can all I'm saying is I can understand the argument, like, where Apple's coming from and why, but it seems like a big stretch to get to a video that's 4 years old and isn't even relevant anymore.
Yeah. Well,
Um,
okay, so I guess we should clarify for the because so there's some people that don't know what it
right.
is, and it is relatively new, I guess.
Yeah, so a YouTube channel that focuses on smartphones and that kind of stuff, Zone of Tech, uh, had a video up 4 years ago about how to install the macOS Yosemite beta on your computer, and that was a time when there was no public beta. And so that he put that video up, it existed for 4 years, and then just the other day, he wakes up and, like, can't access his channel.
Oh god. Dude, gives me the
Yeah, I
goosebumps.
know,
That's
it gave me
terrifying.
chills. It gave me chills. I he said that and I was like,
It just makes you feel icky.
yeah, and so he couldn't access his channel. He comes to find out after doing some, digging that he's been given a copyright strike, for putting this video up 4 years ago. And there's some organization that is basically being content cop for Apple and maybe some other organizations. I don't know exactly what that organization's all about. It's a real organization, but not Apple
Yeah.
themselves. Um, so they put the strike on him, and he's been communicating with them back and forth. He's been communicating with YouTube, and he still doesn't have any kind of resolution. I honestly don't from my experience getting a copyright strike, like, I don't know that he's gonna get it reversed.
Yeah.
And that that sucks.
Yeah,
Um,
what's scary is that, like, so it was done by a company that represents Apple,
right,
which is fair. That's how a lot of this stuff is done. There's companies that are literally that's their sole purpose, and they get hired to do this sort of thing, and that's fine. But, like, that company has the power to just click a button, and that just happens. Like, there's no manual review from YouTube, they just trust the company. And there's so many
right,
companies that do this and don't have an argument,
right,
or like they're totally violating fair use and they do it and there's
right.
no repercussions, there's just nothing. And I mean, this isn't an argument of fair use.
No, I
This is
mean
just a weird practice that you can't really like you can't tell I mean, you can feel like Apple's wrong, but like you can't tell them they're wrong because they made up the rule.
right. Yeah, and I mean, I don't know if it would be more appropriate or even more frightening that they just went on a, like, everybody who did this and put up a video about this at any time, at any point, like,
That'd be bad.
that
That'd be
would
real.
that would destroy a lot of
That'd be
YouTube
like the
channels.
wave of, do you remember when Nintendo did that back in, like, 2013?
Yeah, yeah,
It was just a
yeah,
wave of Nintendo takedowns. Oh,
yeah, which again, that never made any sense because, like, Nintendo's getting free advertising because people
yeah,
are
that was
playing
a
their
joke.
games,
Yeah, that was just them not understanding, like, new media at all, period.
right, exactly. Um, so, I mean, I feel really bad for him because that is really tough. Yeah, I'm sure it'd be good for him to, like, do sort of an audit of the content that he has still live on the channel to just be safe. Like, if you
Mhm.
got 4-year-old videos that aren't drawing any more views and they aren't timely anymore, like, that and they could possibly be there and have somebody strike them, then,
Yeah.
then I would just be like, "I'm putting all these to private." Yeah,
See you
you know?
later.
And
And
I
sometimes that can be safe, but like I wonder if I mean, because the company they just did it and they didn't think further into it. They didn't in their head they never considered possible PR repercussions. I
Right.
wonder if now that he's published a video and now that there's obviously going to be outrage, if we'll have some sort of response from Apple or I mean, because we saw like okay, so they denied to fix Linus's thing,
Right,
right?
I haven't been able to watch that video yet, but I'm
That was
very
a pretty good
excited.
video.
I'm very
Uh,
excited. I'm
ends with
hoping
a
that
it
you
ends
and
with a
Drew.
cliffhanger. Would you believe that?
Oh my. I'm hoping that
Um,
you and Drew both have reaction videos so I can then.
well, in order for me to react, Drew has to react, and then I have to say, "Well, Drew, that was dumb," and then I have to react, and then you have to react, and it has to be a never-ending cycle again.
Yeah, I
But
get to do that Elizabethan sort of thing again, so.
um, but so like that happened to Linus,
Right,
but when a similar situation happened to Snazzy Q, Apple was like they were on it, they fixed it, and they avoided PR disaster, and that's because of the last one. So I
and, well,
wonder if
it's
they're
also
learning any.
Apple hates Canadians, obviously.
I just wonder if like Apple's like I feel like they need to loosen up a bit, especially when we're talking about PR nightmares like these major YouTubers that can I mean, one here and there is whatever, but we're having like three separate Apple major PR issues in a span of like a few months.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, you've already got the keyboard thing and the battery thing and all these different problems that Apple has dealt with or not dealt with or been ultimately forced to deal with.
Mhm.
Uh, and I watched a video, a channel that I just recently started popping up in my feed, by a guy named Luke Miani. Um, and he does like older Apple computer stuff and does current stuff as well. But he had a MacBook from the first batch of butterfly keys that had a bunch of keys messed up. So he took it in to get the whole thing fixed, right?
Mhm.
And the Apple genius, I can't believe that they actually called him that. But yet, still, the Apple genius that he was working with, he asked him, like, "So, are you replacing this with something new, or or just the totally already Siri, stop talking, or Echo or Alexa's talking to me. Stop talking to me. Be quiet." Uh, so So he went in and the guy said, "Oh no, whenever we do this kind of thing where we have this kind of replacement or repair program, we can't do it until a new part has been manufactured." Like, this is what the guy told him.
Right.
And that's obviously straight up BS because they're replacing those keyboards with the same faulty keyboard.
Yeah.
And that's what they're doing. They have not designed a new butterfly keyboard that doesn't suck. So, um,
Well, what the Don in chat said it is an Apple. It's Google. YouTube used to be awesome before Google bought it. YouTube wouldn't be here if Google didn't buy
yeah,
them. I'll tell you that
no.
right now. They
YouTube
wouldn't
was
be here.
circling the toilet of lawsuits by Viacom and a bunch of other people, and it would have consumed YouTube alive.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it is exactly Apple, or at least the company representing Apple.
yeah, yeah. I mean, we can say that Apple was not Apple as an organization or even an individual at Apple was not aware that this this strike might occur to somebody who on a 4-year-old video. Um,
Mhm.
'Cause I'm sure all that stuff is, like, bots crawling through and looking for certain things, and then it flags stuff, and then a person looks at it, whatever. Um, So, I mean, and this is like eerily similar to the PewDiePie versus Alinity thing, where PewDiePie says something not directed at her, just something that she doesn't like about, you know, a certain kind of female Twitch streamers.
Mhm.
And she's like, "Oh, I can't believe he said that," you know. And she's on live saying like, "I'm gonna strike him. I'm gonna,"
Yeah.
you know, and basically goes to whoever it is that handles her empire and says, "Can we strike him?" Like,
Yeah,
and
another company that does this, and
yeah,
that's what they do.
yeah. And, you know, she, of course, had even fewer legs to stand on because
What that
PewDiePie
was
was
yeah.
yeah, PewDiePie was definitely using that content in fair use, and he didn't name her specifically and sort of denigrate her in any way. So, she clearly just didn't understand, like, anything about anything about anything. And
Yep,
then
that
she
was
got herself in further trouble by, like, saying that she married a Canadian to get into Canada, and then she divorced him, and
Oh,
it's like,
classic.
I mean, who marries somebody to get into Canada? For God's sake. Well, anyway, all right, Zach.
Yeah, of all places.
So, sorry, anybody who's Canadian out there. I just like to make those kinds of jokes because,
America's hat.
yeah, you know, we're making America great again down here.
MAGA,
Yeah.
yeah.
So, but okay, so on this on the similar topic in terms of like YouTube being super sketchy, I think we should talk a little bit about this whole Marquez Brownlee MKBHD OnePlus
Mm,
6
yeah,
video review being then turned into an advertisement
yeah.
by OnePlus. I I had no idea that anything like that could ever happen
I
in
knew.
it's
I It's been okay, so it makes sense, and it's been a thing. It's just that no one used it like this before. So, like, we have had companies come to us and ask so they want a pre-roll made,
right,
but they want us to make it, and they're just gonna pay and promote it as an ad, which we have done that before.
right,
We've done that for our own channel. So we were with Full Screen Network for a while. And to promote our channel, they had us make a channel trailer before channel trailers were a thing, and
right,
they paid to promote it. And it was like on their side of things, and it was a pre-roll because of them and all that stuff, and it was an ad because they paid it, but it was under our branding.
right,
And companies have paid us to make pre-rolls for them before. This was like the first time where a company was like, "Oh wait, we could just do this," and if they just like there was no permission there between Marquez and OnePlus.
right.
There was no money exchanged. I'm sure they sent him the device and hundreds of other devices, and
Yeah,
that's fine. He
yeah, I
makes the
mean,
video
they
review
sent
that's
him
all.
the original device and then the red device, and you
Yeah,
know, and he made videos about all of them, and they got their dollars worth. But the thing is, like, the I sort of likened it to this. Like, you know how sometimes a political candidate will be running a national campaign and they will choose a song as their like theme song, whatever. Many times, like, and you can do that. You pay the licensing fee. You can use the music as long as you're paying for it, you know, whatever. But oftentimes artists will say, "I would prefer you not use my song in connection with your campaign.
yeah,
I'm not a supporter of yours." And uh and then they pull the thing out and they don't use it anymore.
yeah. Okay, so the I'm slightly irritated, and I feel like we should clear this up. One Man Show says it's the same thing as embedding a video on another website. Basically, the same thing. They're not stealing anything. They didn't alter the video. They're just paying. They're just playing it on YouTube. Okay, that's no. It's
That
not the
no,
same
no,
thing.
no, 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 no.
If you
It's
embed a
not that.
video, if The Verge embeds one of your video, it's clearly on The Verge. They did that editorially. They embedded the video.
Right.
This has OnePlus nowhere near it. It says ad. It was obviously a paid ad, and it has Marquez's name attached to it.
And
It
his
looks
face.
like Marquez paid for this ad And that's the issue here. If it was Marquez's video and it said OnePlus sponsored by OnePlus and they paid for the ad, that's whatever.
Right.
But it doesn't say that. It just it's Marquez's video on Marquez's channel promoted as an ad, and it looks like Marquez paid for this ad.
Even beyond that, like, so I made a video about this that went up before
I watched it.
we came on the show, and the whole thing is like, from a credibility standpoint, if you're doing reviews of things, you have to maintain a certain level of like trust with your viewers.
Yeah.
And for a third party to be able to come in without your permission, without your knowledge, and without even, I mean, let alone compensating you for it, and just turn your stuff into an advertisement for their product. Yeah. That is, I literally, I'm not speechless because obviously I have a lot to say about it, but
yeah.
So
he replied again in chat and said, how is it not? Did they alter the video? That's not that it's all totally over your head, dude. You're not even getting what the issue here is. It's like, okay, so Marquez reviews a bunch of different phones. From the outside looking in, it looks like he reviews a bunch of phones and he picked a favorite and he's promoting this one and this is a sponsored ad spot. When it's not the case at all. It was paid for by OnePlus, but it does not disclose that at all. That's like my main issue with that.
And above and beyond that, Marquez created the video with a certain intent to be, for all intents and purposes, his version of a fair and balanced video where he gives his opinions about the product for the use of the consumers who watch his videos, right? He at no time intended for that to be an advertisement. He didn't make the video, edit the video, write the video. Nothing about it was meant to be an advertisement. So for then a third party to come in and say, well, it's cheaper to buy the rights to use this video as an ad than for us to actually make our own ad.
They did not pay. Not only did they not ask MKBHD if he would make an ad for them, they also didn't pay him to do that. So why is it okay for them to turn his like genuine review of their product into an ad?
Yeah. And from the standpoint of like intellectual property and copyright and everything like that, the thing that beyond those things we've just talked about that really bothers me is that this is a policy that YouTube conceived of and supports as part of their terms of service.
I wonder if it's just like the way I described it, the policy makes sense. And I wonder if this is just the first time someone has done this. It's like a loophole, and it's the first time a company's done this, and the policy should change. I don't know. It's definitely not okay.
Right. And people have reached out to me in the comments of the video that I made and in other places and have said, like, same thing happened with Sarah Dici recently. Same thing happened with Jeremy Judkins reached out and said he had the same thing happen to him.
Mm-hmm.
Tech Ninja, same thing happened to him. And so it seems like if it hasn't been a pattern in the past, it's becoming a pattern now. And companies are realizing, like, people are making all these videos about our products. We pick the one that we like, and then we just pay YouTube to run it as an ad.
Yeah.
And that's great. But no, it hurts the credibility of the person who's made the video for a specific purpose. It's, I don't know. It just really, like, that's something I'll go to the mattresses on, because
it's just like, it's like jeopardizing somebody's integrity, and it can happen with or without their permission. They might not even know.
Right. But Marquez did not know. The tweet that he put out this morning.
Somebody, right?
Yeah, the tweet that he put out this morning, he was just like, apparently this happened.
Yeah.
Like,
and it wasn't even like, apparently this happened. It was like, apparently this is a thing, or this can happen. Like that.
Yeah.
That has to be a policy change on YouTube side. That has to be disclosed somewhere.
Yeah, because I don't care if it's in their terms of service and everybody tacitly agrees to that when they're on the platform. It is straight up an abuse of intellectual property
And,
and copywritten
Twitter does that
material.
right. If there's you can pay for a sponsored tweet, but under the sponsored tweet, it always says paid for by blank.
Right. Right. So YouTube needs to step up and do something to correct this because
Absolutely.
I mean there's already a lot of mistrust. Plenty of people who have varying levels of understanding of how YouTube works and how tech YouTubers do their business. I mean that's the whole reason I started the Can You Trust series was like to have this conversation. Like what are they doing? Why are they doing it? How are they doing it? Is it on the up and up? And
Yeah.
and for YouTube then just to have this policy, they have to back up their creators. If they don't back up their creators, then you know shit's gonna go down. you know, no. So Rotario asks, did Marquez get a check for being in a OnePlus ad? No, he didn't get a check. He didn't get
Yeah,
notified that it
exactly.
was being done. He just woke up this morning and found that all of a sudden his review video was an advertisement for OnePlus. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing that okay, I'm gonna go old school and talk about copyright issues and music, right? So back when
But that's fair.
Napster was a thing, basically that was straight upright, like just complete theft of people's intellectual property and distributing it to anyone who wanted to take it. And there was a pervasive thought that like, well, it's digital. It's not a product. And that's not true. And
Yeah.
then people are like, well, then people probably say this about Marquez, like, oh, well, he's got 6 million subscribers. What's it matter to him? He's getting ad revenue. I don't even know if he gets ad revenue from the video views. But the thing is, like, there are people whose lives depend on, maintaining their credibility and being paid for the work that they do in the appropriate ways.
Mhm.
So any musician who had their album stolen 1,000 times, that's literally like $10 that you stole out of their pocket.
Yeah.
And
And I'm sure this video is monetized and he's making money off of the 20 plus million views that it has at this point, but like that's still not an okay exchange of money.
no,
Like
no,
that's literally OnePlus indirectly paying Marquez.
it's basically like doing a video where you take somebody's material and it may not be about the topic that you want it to be about, but you cut it up and make them say the things that you want them to say,
Yeah.
and then put that out as a video, and it has
It
no relationship to what the
it's
actual
like
video was.
it's like them being like, "Hey, we're gonna pay you for this review," and Marquez is like, "Well, no, 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 I don't want money," and they just get direct access to direct deposit in his bank account and just start handing him money anyway.
Right.
He has no say. It's just happening.
Yeah. And creators should have the option and the right to be at the table saying yes, saying no, making
Absolutely.
stipulations about how that relationship should work for them to be comfortable with it. You can't just do that and run around and say like, well, this is a policy at YouTube. We can buy this video anytime we want. That to me is like that's illegal. I don't care if it's part of the terms of service. That is illegal. And I'll
There should just be something in I mean, if YouTube's not gonna fix the policy on their end, there
right.
should be something at least in Creator Studio that says, "Hey, X brand wants to do this with your video. Yes, no."
Yeah, that would make some sense. They There has to be an opt-in option or an opt-out, more importantly. Um, if if they don't do that, then they're encouraging theft.
Yeah.
Uh, so I mean, well, okay. Rotary is talking about when Queen sued Vanilla Ice for Under Pressure. Sampling
What?
of yeah. So basically, for Ice Ice Baby, Vanilla Ice took the loop, the hook loop of Under Pressure by Queen, and
Yeah.
used it as the basis for the song. Sampling is really complex. It's really hard to like understand when it's like creating a new piece of art using the pieces of other pieces of art, or if it's just like standing on the shoulders of giants. It's really difficult to understand which of those is happening. The line is really fine. Now, one of the most instructive copyright cases that ever occurred was, so George Harrison wrote My Sweet Lord, and somewhere in George's brain, he just didn't realize this was happening. It was basically He's So Fine by the Shirelles. And if you think about it, if you know both songs and you think about it, yes, you hear He's So Fine, My Sweet Lord. The melody, the chord changes, everything is the same. And ultimately, George Harrison lost that suit and had to pay the writers of that song for, you know, damages of some sort.
Mm-hmm.
This is, that's George Harrison inadvertently, using a song that he's heard a million times over as the basis for a song and not realizing that he's doing it. What OnePlus did to Marquez was like, it was even shadier in that, like, well, we're not going to go through the front door and just offer to pay him to represent our company and be a spokesperson for our company, because that'll be expensive.
Yeah.
We're going to give him the phone, let him do a video, and then we'll just take it.
The Mari guy says he does get more money though, but that doesn't make it okay. He didn't say yes to the money.
Yeah,
Like
that's the thing. Like, you have to be able to say, this is my intellectual property, this is my copywritten material, this is a work product of mine. And if you take my work product and use it in a way that I did not intend it to be used, then you are causing damage to me, my work, and my business.
Yeah.
And if that's not seen and dealt with by the people who really make these decisions, then YouTube is doomed. The tech community is doomed, because if everything that we do can be used as an advertisement, then what's the point of doing the reviews or trying to have any kind of credibility whatsoever?
And like, okay, I'm okay with it though. Like, okay, if I say something positive, if I'm Marquez and I say something positive about the OnePlus 6, whatever, I'm totally cool. Like, I put this content on a platform that I don't have control over. I can't, their rules are their rules. It's like how when people threw a fit over, there were rumors that Instagram, because it's in policies, that Instagram can basically use your photos and sell them elsewhere. Like, and there was just like, it doesn't happen, but it was a total panic on people's end. But like,
Right.
that is in their control. You don't want Instagram to sell your photos, don't upgrade your photos to the free platform that has their own policies and that you don't control. That's just
Right.
an easy thing. It's totally cool if Marquez says something decently positive about the OnePlus 6 and he puts it on YouTube, and then OnePlus takes a clip of that and they put it in a OnePlus ad. That is fine, because it's marketed as OnePlus, paid for by OnePlus.
And they've probably told him at some point, they've reached out to him and say, can we use this clip from your video?
And he said no.
and if he said no, then they'd just do an end run around the policy and do it anyway.
Yeah.
Which is freaking shady. It takes things that, so like you can't
Oh
touch.
my God, you guys are killing me. It's not for free. He gets paid for it.
Yeah, no, it doesn't matter if he's getting paid or not. He didn't have any opportunity to say, I want to get paid for this, or I don't want to get paid for this. Like, they stole his content, and the fact that he, as a result, gets paid shekels for AdSense doesn't matter. Doesn't matter at all. What matters is they stole from him. They just straight up stole. And they did it in a way that is legal.
They stole
on YouTube.
using his name.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, if we weren't talking about it and you were just a viewer and you just open up the YouTube app and you see OnePlus 6 review Marquez Brownlee ad, it's assumed that he paid for it.
Right.
You don't know OnePlus did anything.
Yeah. They did one man show. I'm sorry, but it is theft of intellectual property. It is theft of a creative work product. If they take it and use it and they don't have permission, it's theft. That's just the way it is. Creative work product is just as valuable and just as protectable as, if you make a car. Like if you make a car and then somebody takes your car and, well, this is maybe not the greatest example, but if you make something physical and it's used in a way that you didn't intend it to, dude, I have been in this business for 30 years. Okay? I have consulted with lawyers on these issues. Okay? I know what I'm talking about. It is.
And you know what I love to say to these people? Just like, because I get real worked up. Obviously, I'm getting worked up right now live on the air. This is one of those things where history, you just give it a little bit of time and you'll be proven correct. That's just like, I can't change this one man show's mind. He's very, very wrong. It's very clear that he's very, very wrong, but I can't convince him of that. So one man show, when the policy changes and it's in our favor, you'll know.
Yeah. I mean, here's the thing. I didn't have to get law degrees because I paid for a lawyer to consult on these very issues. Okay? I was an entertainer who was creating creative work product that I felt at one time was being stolen from me by someone else. And so I have 30 years worth of experience of dealing with creative work product and copyright infringement. I know what I'm talking about. Am I a lawyer? No, but that's why I pay them. Straight up. All right, maybe we should move on to a different topic because this isn't gonna get any better.
I want to talk about your video the other day.
Oh, I thought you might.
Jason.
Yeah. Just
I've been very vocal in my opinion.
Burner to the other, right?
I've been very vocal in my opinion that the iPhone 9, whatever they call it, the 6.1-inch LCD model this year outsells the other models. The follow-up iPhone 10 5.8-inch and the 6.5-inch iPhone 10 Plus.
Yes,
you said no.
Yeah,
I said you went further than saying no. You said it was going to flop.
Well, I will admit that I may have engaged in some hyperbole for effect. Like flopping, an iPhone flopping still will amount to like millions upon millions of sales. It's not something that you can balance.
Mm-hmm.
Like I got into it a little bit on Twitter with Andrew Edwards, where he was like, well, do you consider the Pixel 2 a flop because it only sold 10 million units while the iPhone 5C sold 24 million units? It's like, well, the Pixel 2 is a second generation piece of hardware.
Yes, you do consider that a flop, actually.
Well,
it's like if Andrew Edwards is really trying to say that we do not use context, if some startup somewhere in China sells 10 million units, that's a great success. If Google themselves sells 10 million units comparatively to the rest of the market, and it's Google, the people that have Android that make it, right. Yes, it's a flop. Context matters. I don't understand where people don't get that.
I see what you're saying. My overall point was like comparing the Pixel 2 sales to an iPhone sales number is not contextually accurate because,
well, also comparatively, if you do want to consider that, the iPhone 5C did flop compared to other iPhones.
Yes, it did. And that's kind of what I was saying. I mean, I felt like, we've been down this road. I just made Zach a moderator, I think.
Zach will save the day.
So we can deal with some of this stuff. And yeah.
Trust in Zach.
But yeah, I mean, my thought is we've been down this road before where they tried to make like a slightly lesser spec model, and they made it in pretty colors, and that was supposed to like open up a new market segment for them, and it didn't.
Wrong execution though on Apple's part. It
Well, I
was
mean,
the wrong execute. Okay, if I was wrong, Apple would be crazy to do this again. Like after what we saw with the iPhone 5C, it would be insane for them as a business to do this again. So obviously there's a different plan here, wouldn't you say?
yes, logic would dictate such, but that doesn't mean that Apple is doing that.
What
I
are you
mean,
talking about, dude? The iPhone 5C was compared to the new phones that hit the market was plastic and cheap, like looking like it had that aesthetic the whole time. These new phones aren't going to have that. This is
well,
the first time in Apple history that we've seen this.
yeah, and I think there's a reason for that. Because people want the phone, like the iPhone, and
Absolutely do.
and I think that there's a majority of people who like from the research that I referred to, um, the people who are the typical Apple consumer, and we don't have to call it like average consumer versus Apple consumers. That doesn't matter. It's just the demographic of people who have been perennial Apple customers. There's market data out there that says, basically that they're willing to overpay for Apple, whereas they might not be, whereas that might not be
But
the
like,
case in some
how
other
is that?
facet of their
Of course,
lives.
that's the case, though, dude. They've had no choice. Apple has given them no other choice.
Okay, I'm gonna admit something personal, and
Oh
I
God, here
and
we
I
go.
think that this is
By the way,
this
in chat, I think I speak for both of us when no one promoted Zach because he paid. He super chatted. We trust Zach. He's a really great part of this community. Like
yeah,
we heavily trust Zach.
yeah, and Zach shows up at our live streams and stuff all the time. So Zach is my choice. It's my channel, and maybe I'll add more mods at different times. Uh, but right now it's Zach. So get over it. uh, my whole point is like I have. I'm going to admit this.
Oh
There's
boy.
there's a big part of me that when I go out and I buy an Apple product, there's a certain very large satisfaction in knowing that I'm getting at least the best that I can afford, or maybe even more than I can afford
But that's
objectively.
fair, I feel like.
And so like buying the $2,800 MacBook Pro, like that gives me
Oh, by
the
the way,
feeling.
I want to separate. So, okay. I believe there's a different subset of people that buy iPhones than buy MacBooks, if you know what I mean.
Right.
iPhones are more accessible to the average consumer than a MacBook would be. I feel like there's more decision making in a MacBook than an iPhone.
Well, yeah, and it's more of a niche product that people aren't going to just go out and people are going to buy if they want to buy them. If they don't have the certain needs for the kind of power that a MacBook offers, they have other options and they'll go to those options. So, um, for me, when I buy an Apple product, I know that I'm buying cachet. And that sounds absolutely ridiculous. And logically it is ridiculous, but when I bought the iPhone 10, I was like 256 gig, I got to have it. That's going to make me have some sort of credibility or something. I don't know. And I just think a lot of
But I think
people
that's where
think that.
I feel like we separate that, dude. I feel like, okay, so with me being a tech personality, I always, especially with Front Page Tech, and I think it's because of my goal with Front Page Tech in the first place. Front Page Tech is not made for the tech community necessarily. It's not made for tech savvy people. I want to get the information in front of people that need it. We're all affected by technology. We all have phones in our pockets, and I want to make the show consumable for everybody. So when I think about this stuff, I try to think about everybody. And
Right.
like, would I want the best spec phone with the most gigawatts and all that stuff.
And
Sure, but
gigabytes and everything.
yeah, but like, do you know what 256 gigabytes means? But does Sarah down the street know what that means?
She knows it means she can like download more movies and take more pictures without having to worry about her memory running out.
But she could be be served totally fine with a model that's in front of her that's convenient for her, whether it's for her upgrade plan or the price point or whatever.
I understand. And the argument that people made about the iPhone 10 was, well, what's an extra $5 or $10 a month spread out over 2 years to get the better phone, right? And people were like, oh no, people aren't going to do that. I mean, that's still throwing away money. Yeah.
But like every previous year, there's been a clear case of the better phone. There's always been something. As far from this standpoint, from at least for what you know, would be hilarious if there was no iPhone 9, if there was no 6.1-inch LCD model, and we only got 2 iPhones, and none of this stuff mattered.
Well, I think that's what they should be doing. I think it's ridiculous to fracture the market like this.
No,
I think it's absolutely ridiculous to fracture the market.
No, it is not though.
One of the reasons that their sales of the iPhone 10 were a little bit weird to begin with was the fact that they released the iPhone 8 and 8 Plus before it came out, and they still had the 7. They still had the 7 for sale.
No.
They still had the 6S for sale.
The other ones because it looked like the new one. Did people were not greatly served better by the iPhone 10 because of specs or Face ID or anything. They bought it because it was clearly the new iPhone. When when that phone comes out, you buy an iPhone 8? What? Like that didn't even make sense at the keynote. Like when the keynote was happening, I said they were trolling. Like when they announced the iPhone 8 and iPhone 8 Plus, I was live tweeting it and said they're trolling. There's going to be one more thing because we were all expecting the iPhone 10. And then it was just silly at that point because it was just like, it was clearly going to cannibalize sales at that point. I think the biggest killer of the iPhone sales, the iPhone 10 sales, because we had that sprint, right? Like it was first announced, all the major core Apple community, they buy the phone. It sells really well. It outsells the other model. But now we're seeing the average consumer, the people in the marathon that aren't sprinting, that just buy phones when it's convenient for them, not buying
when their upgrade cycle ends.
There's such a drastic change in price there. And I think the way I look at it is, if I was wrong, and if a lot of the tech people, like, I mean, you said the same thing at the time, that like it was kind of pushing it price point wise. And if we were wrong about that, Jason, Apple would not be releasing phones that are cheaper this year. That just wouldn't be happening. If it actually worked out in their favor, this wouldn't be happening. I feel like there was a reality check there and they learned their lesson. Did they sell a lot of phones? Yes, they sold a ton of phones, but it still didn't meet their expectations. That is still very, very clear.
So I made a video when they announced the iPhone 8. And basically the title of the video was something like Apple's most useless product ever. Because why the hell would you release this when you've got this brand new model that, it's like, oh, so we made a glass back version of what we've been doing for the past 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
and then, you're either going to buy that or wait for the new sexiness. I just don't see, like, I think if they released an iPhone, like a 5.8 and a 6.5, and they just said, these are the phones that are available this year, they would sell as many phones as they would sell if they had, Taste the Rainbow Skittles phones.
And that's true if we're dealing with the same Apple. I've been saying all this year that I have just this really weird feeling that we're dealing with a different Apple this year. And before it was just like a weird, like fortune cookie moment. But now we're starting to see it. Like the fact that they've started to open up a little bit more. iOS, they totally halted that. They shelved all plans they had for like crazy new features to add into iOS. And iOS 12 is actually refined and optimized, like to the point where the beta version of iOS 12 is more reliable and stable than the actual stable iOS 11.4.1. Like it's actually in a better position right now.
Yeah, I'm using it right now.
Exactly.
On the
iOS
on the
ever
iPhone
since
7 that I
iOS
bought this weekend.
You just bought whatever, dude. Okay, so don't
There's
you
a
have an
reason for
iPhone 10? Okay,
Not
we'll
anymore.
get
No.
Okay, so Jesus. So for the the iPhone, what was I even talking about? What
Uh,
was I even saying? Oh yeah, okay,
you're
iOS.
explaining
So
how
iOS
Apple is
12.
going to be different this year.
Yeah, iOS 12. Since iOS 7 came out, it has been a mess. Like iOS 7 was like, at that time, there was a lot of pressure in the market and they needed a visual change. And
Right.
Android was putting a lot of pressure on them. And they reacted under pressure and they delivered what I think is actually a pretty decent design. Like I liked it when it came out. I loved the look of iOS 7. A lot of people didn't like the shift, but that's what differentiates. Like, and at the time I said it might not be the best. Like, I really love the design change, but the Apple consumer is the average consumer that won't be as so accepting to change. And that's why Apple can get away with launching and releasing iterative updates, whereas Samsung couldn't,
Right.
because people they just buy the new iPhone every year. And the fact that those issues with the OS like just built up every single year, and it got so far away from them that they couldn't even keep track of the bugs and glitches anymore, to where they stopped. They were self-aware enough, and for this year, they decided, okay, you know what? We're going to take it easy, and instead we're going to focus on fixing this mess. And they fixed iOS finally. And
I think part of that, and I agree with you. I think part of why that was necessary this year was because they found themselves straddling two different modes of operation for the operating system. They had the old home button, yada yada yada, and then they had the gesture based.
yeah,
And neither one of them were perfect for, neither one of them worked as they should, whether it was gesture based on iPhone 10 or on the iPhone
yeah.
8 as a home button version.
But now we have iOS 12 that's literally twice as fast at this point
Yeah.
as the stable version of what we have now.
Yeah.
We're just seeing a totally different Apple. And another thing that tells me that they're totally different is the phones that they're releasing. Like, the only reason they're going to release a 6.1 inch LCD model that carries the same design as the new phones, minus the single camera lens on the back. And even that, I have a point about that. But like,
3D
the fact
touch
that they're
screen.
doing that, they're targeting the market in such a differently aggressive way than they haven't before. I feel like they're under pressure with their
Except for
shareholders.
the
They're
5C.
making a ton of money, obviously.
Yeah.
But they still haven't been meeting expectations for the past 2 or 3 years.
I don't think that
they need to bring in new people. They're going to attack the market so aggressively this year. And another thing they're like is that 6.1 inch size. It's right in between 5.8, 6.5. I feel like that's the perfect size phone.
Yeah. And if it were okay, what makes me feel like it's a little bit desperate is the colors. Okay? Like, colors are for children. And children aren't going to buy an $800 phone.
It's not going to be $800.
Well, that's what I mean. I've seen 700. I've seen 800.
This model would not make sense to exist if it was only $100 less than the 5.8 inch model, OLED model. That's going to be $899. If this model was $799, it wouldn't make sense. Like, logistically, it only makes sense at $700.
Well, there'll be tiers. So I have a feeling Apple's going to do what they often do. They're going to do something like make the 6.1 inch not only just an LCD screen, but the storage options are also 32 and 128. And that's going to pressure certain people toward making that choice where they might not buy an iPhone because they just can't, right? So everybody wants an iPhone. Everybody will look at those things, and there will be people who will say, "Oh, well, this one is cheaper and it kind of looks the same. I don't care about the other stuff." But still, like,
my argument is entirely different. They won't even know about the other stuff, dude. They're going to go in and they're going to see it looks the same, and they aren't going to know that it has an LCD display over an OLED display. They're not even going to know the difference. And that's one of the key things that keeps this price down. They're able to cut a few corners elsewhere, but the only physical difference people are going to see is a single lens camera. And in their head, they're going to think, oh, that's why the price is is less. They're going to think that's the only reason the price is less, and they're going to be willing to sacrifice that. I don't need 2 cameras. This is fine. They're not going to know it might be lower spec, or it has less gigabyte storage in it, or they definitely won't know it has an LCD display in it. They definitely will not know. No clue.
And that's probably right. My point is, like, I don't see enough people choosing that version of the phone.
It's gonna crush it. We're not gonna see I think we might see people that usually upgrade to the new iPhone. We might see a few of them be okay with accepting the downgrade, but this phone is not for the people that know they're downgrading. This is to bring new market share into Apple that they don't have, because they're at a really dangerous peak right now where they're making so much money and they have so much user base, but people are now sitting and they've decided iOS, Android, and they're sort of just re-upping that upgrade every single year, and Apple's stuck in this cycle. They're not meeting expectations anymore. That's just like the truth. They need something to hit these people right in the penis and be like, hey, Apple product in your price range, iOS, here you go. And that's gonna convince them, and they probably will go back to being Apple next year.
I don't know if you saw Brian Tong's video about these mid-tier phones, but he basically did some research and broke down like the most popular colors on the planet Earth.
Yeah, and the colors were weird that they chose.
And like, so orange is like the least desired color on the whole planet. And yet Apple has decided to make an orange.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that the color choices are weird. I think the colors are great. I think that's freaking awesome. I think I said there was in terms of like when we were starting to hear little like speculations about this device, I said if this phone comes out and it hits 2 things, it's going to crush it. Number 1, it has to look the same, and it's going to look relatively the same. But number 2, I said if this comes out in like fun little colors, it's over. Like game over. And I think that just the fact that it's going to come out in like fun different colors that the other models don't have, it's going to crush it. But I do agree that Apple chose really weird colors. If these are the final colors, that is.
Well, yeah, I mean, the way that I look at it,
the iPhone 5C. It is not the iPhone 5S.
I'm not going to say that. That's not what I'm going to say. What I'm going to say is
I was referencing chat. It's not the iPhone 5C, and it's not the iPhone SE all over again. The iPhone 5C, when it came out, was plastic and looked cheap. These new models are going to look all the same. The iPhone SE, when it came out, looked 2 years older than the new models. It looked totally different.
See, okay, so I had another Oysters discussion with Andrew Edwards on Twitter just yesterday, where I was saying that, this feels like the 5C because, well, to my mind, colors feel like desperation. But he was like, well, he made the good point that the 5C was not just different colors. It also had the previous year's hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And the 5S had the upgraded chip, had the upgraded camera.
Well, the SE's hardware looked 2 years old by the time because it came out with the iPhone 6S.
So nobody cares. Nobody cares what the iPhone SE. So people want the iPhone SE because it looks like that. Yeah. Because that's like the classic iconic design.
Well, that was the cool. That was okay for us, right? That was the cool selling point. It is the iPhone SE. Sure, it looks like the other model, but it has just the previous generation specs. But that's only information that we know. The average consumer doesn't know that it has really upgraded specs. They don't have any idea. They're going off a look.
They know that they either want a smaller phone, because I had a lot of my friends when the 6 and 6S came out, they were like, this totally pisses me off because the iPhone was the perfect size, and now I got to get this thing or this even bigger thing. And they were really ticked off. Whereas with the 5C, I think that the people who buy the 5C, like you just said, are people who are aficionados of the technology and appreciate that design and will purchase it because it's not dumbed down. I mean, it's not current now, but when it was released, it was
on the inside. They know that they know the value on the inside.
Right. Other people are those people who want a smaller phone. Other people are people who want a who want an iPhone but cheap. And when you can get an iPhone 5 or an iPhone SE today for less than $15 a month, that's a whole hell of a lot different than the $40+ it costs to get the iPhone 10.
Yeah.
So
And I don't think this is a purely price argument either. Like I sort of understand, like, because again, context matters, and in context, people want to call this the budget phone, but this is not a budget phone. The push for this product is not the fact that it's a budget phone. This is a value for money argument. This is the law of diminishing returns that we're talking about here.
Right. I see what you're getting at. I think sticking a weirdly spec'd model of your flagship phone in the middle of your two flagship phones is just a really weird choice to make.
People won't know that it's oddly spec'd, though.
I know what you're saying. I don't think people.
We know that, but this phone is not for us.
See, but I don't fully agree with, like, most people are stupid and they'll just you could give them an iPhone with sand inside of it.
Dude, I'm calling us ridiculous. We're the ridiculous people. We're the weird people that know what CPU is in this phone. I'm not calling other people stupid. They are the normal everyday people. We're the weirdos.
Well, I've been called that before. and not for knowing what's inside a phone, but my point is, like, I thought that it was stupid this year for Apple to have 8 models of their phone available, and now they're not only going to have 8 models available, but they're going to have fucking 8 colors. And like I said, to my mind, especially when it comes to Apple products, colors mean desperation. Like,
because in Apple's history, it kind of has. But I keep preaching, forget what you think you know. Like, they've never done this before. This is not, Apple would be so crazy to try to repeat the same thing that they did and hope that it's successful.
And yet, from the vantage point of, like, we only know conceptually what these phones might be, it sure as hell,
I hope that they don't even exist.
It sure as hell looks like they're kind of doing the same thing. I mean,
no, Jason.
I don't see the market that you see. I don't see it.
If there was no colors on this 6.1-inch model, would you still see it as desperation?
No.
What? So it's only desperation because there's colors? Because
they're stupid, like, Skittles colors.
But you don't have to get the colors. It doesn't. You see it as goofy Skittles colors and desperation. But some person might like red. They might like orange. They don't. That's not the point. They don't have to get the colors if they don't want to.
Only 10%.
I can see it if it came out in only orange.
Only 10% of the population even can stand the color orange of the whole world.
Screw those people.
So who's going to buy an orange iPhone? Nobody.
This isn't an argument of who's going to buy the orange iPhone. You don't have to buy the orange one.
My problem is, like, if they had white, black, rose gold, and something else fun, then I'm like, okay, that's a proper fleshing out of a line.
But there has to be something, because the other ones are getting gold, white, black, or space gray, white, and gold. So these literally, they have to. Apple has to add a little bit of something, even if it's not something that everybody wants. I think the colors, I'm telling you, man, the colors are weird. Like, I love the idea of fun colors, but I totally am on board with you in the fact that they chose weird colors.
Right.
Like, it was just like somebody, like Johnny Ives colorblind, and he meant red, but it's getting printed orange.
Right. I mean, my whole thing is, and again, we don't know that these are, like, the actual colors.
Yeah, I mean, it could all be, literally, as we mentioned before, for all we know, this 6.1-inch thing is a myth. It doesn't even exist. No, I'm sorry. John, please answer my question. Apple knows a large user base, pays for the visual prestige. How will Apple... Okay, no. If for the people that want to pay more to get more, they're going to buy the iPhone 10 Plus or the iPhone 11 Plus, whatever they're calling it. There was an analyst today that came out with the names iPhone 11, 11 Plus, and 9, and all those are weird to me.
Their naming conventions are so screwed up that they can't even find their way out of.
Here's
like
the
a
issue,
wet
though.
paper
The
bag.
iPhone 10 made sense as the 10th anniversary phone. It was supposed to be the
But it
special
wasn't the 10th
edition thing.
anniversary phone.
But that's the name makes sense, but like normal people don't understand the context of why it was named the iPhone 10.
Yeah.
Almost passed out.
But where do you go from there? I mean, do you keep like, okay, so we left out 9. Do we stick 9 in there? You know,
I know.
It's like
they're definitely going to be like, I don't want to say they're going to name it the iPhone 11, 11 Plus, and the 9, but like they're probably gonna.
See, what I think they should do is stick with what they've done with their computing products, which is, MacBook, 5,2 or 5,1 or whatever it is, 15, blah, and it's known as the 2017, early 2017, late 2016.
Why? I wish. I know it sounds crazy to jump, but like I wish we could just start iPhone 18, iPhone 19, iPhone 20.
I wish we could just say iPhone. I mean, that to me is where it started. It started with iPhone, and iPhone.
They tried that with iPad, right?
Yeah, and it worked. Well, and then they went to Air, and Air means nothing, and they were stupid with that. Their market research was way off. I don't know who was telling them.
No Roman numerals for 9. Oh God, that would be such a mistake, dude.
Yeah, it's like if people don't know what's inside their phone, they're not going to know what IX is.
Yeah. So, well, I mean, I feel like the majority of people call it the iPhone X. Unknowingly.
Yeah, I just think that it should be iPhone. If you go back and listen to
But then it would suck for us. How are we going to get the views if every iPhone is the iPhone and last year's iPhone is also the iPhone?
We could call one the biggin.
The biggin. I love it. Go ahead.
What I'm saying is I feel like they have strayed from what really got them off the ground and built this behemoth of a company that they've got and a product that they've got. See, like Steve Jobs imbued in that company the idea that like it's just got to be good. It's just got to work. We don't need all these fancy versions. We don't need, No,
No. That only worked. That has worked up to this point, and they're at their peak. That's what people have now decided. We are so far along. People that buy Android devices are buying Android devices every year. People that are buying iPhones are buying iPhones every year. They need something that infiltrates them. They need someone to dive into the other enemy's bunker and just pee on everybody.
Yeah, but I don't see anybody choosing this $700 iPhone
They're
over
going to,
the
dude.
Samsung.
I
don't see it.
They're gonna do it. I promise. Oh my. I have literally bet Viper $500. I bet Drew $1,000. I'll bet you another $1,000.
I'm not betting any money because I don't have.
I will do like OnePlus did with Marquez, and I'll just put it straight in your bank account. You won't have a say.
Okay, that means that I win, but
you win either way. But like, okay, so here's the issue. There's literally a phone for everybody this year in a way that Apple hasn't done it before. If you really love Apple and you're that core Apple customer, the iPhone 11 Plus is for you. And I would never ever tell you to get the 6.1 inch. That doesn't make any sense. I'm not saying that your core Apple community is going to buy this over the iPhone 10 Plus or the iPhone 11 Plus, whatever it's called. That would be That would be insane. That's not what this is for. This is Apple attacking the market, and the numbers are there, dude. They're not meeting expectations anymore. For the past 2 or 3 years, they just can't do it. And in order to continue to meet expectations in a world where people are buying smartphones less and less and upgrading less and less, they need new people. That's what this is about.
Well, I look at them not being as successful anymore as a symptom of a disease that's been plaguing them for longer than the past couple of years. I think the iPhone 6 and 6 Plus were the poison pill. Shitty design.
Wait, what phones did you say?
6 and 6 Plus.
What?
Those phones compared to the
What are you
previous.
talking about, dude? They outsold everything.
Oh, I
They're
know.
still crazy sellers.
I know.
The design hasn't changed until the iPhone 10.
I know. What I'm saying is the iPhone up to the 5S was special. It had personality.
It had Steve Jobs is what it had.
Yeah. Okay. Yes, it had Steve Jobs. Steve Jobs was never going to allow that company to do a plus size phone. And they did it after he died because he was
I
dead.
mean, what? The iPhone 5 design was the last design Steve had ever seen.
Yes.
Right? Okay.
Yeah. But that was, you could tell that there was a certain mojo to that design. And the iPhone 6 was just like a little slab of nothing made out of aluminum.
I kind of agree, because at the time, like, I was an avid iPhone user, and that design was horrid, especially just like the lines on the back. I know they're antennas, but like they just kind of put them there. It was just, there was no even, they didn't even try to blend it. They just existed.
Think back at, like, okay, so let's think back to the history of the things that Johnny Ive has designed for Apple.
Mm-hmm.
The original iMac, the iPod, the original iPhone. And think about those things and how iconic they are. You know, how that design does not look dated, even though most of those designs were made more than a decade ago. Apple went cheap and made an aluminum.
That's kind of Tim Cook's job, wasn't it? From the very beginning. That's what he did.
But that's when Apple started to not be special anymore.
But here's also a fact. They've never made more money. Tim Cook has made that company far more money than Steve Jobs.
Well, I agree with you, but
not saying that
Steve Jobs'
Steve
vision for the company was not by quarter. It was by, decade.
It was the next 10 years.
Yeah. He treated the company like a person, and he nurtured the company, and he cared about what the company was going to become. Tim Cook is very, very good at his job. If his job is
amazing at his job.
But he's the supply side guy who really knows how to maximize, cost per unit versus profit per unit. But in doing that, in going to the iPhone 6 design, it ceased to be as special. There were a few times when they really got it right, like the jet black iPhone, even though it was like you just have to look at it and scratches up.
The iPhone 5, that like the jet black bezels and the chamfered edges, and ooh, baby.
Yeah. And I think there were, and like I said, there were high points for the design that started with the iPhone 6. But from that point, they weren't, okay, I'm going to make a diving reference because that makes sense.
What?
It's like the degree of difficulty.
I'm like right on board with you, and I can see where you're going, but I have no idea.
The degree of difficulty on the iPhone 5S was like, you could score 10 out of 10, right? That would be a difficult dive that you could get, the optimum score. The iPhone 6 design was like, you could score a maximum 8 out of 10. It's like, it's going to do the job, but it's nowhere near what the mojo of the previous models were. It's more efficient. It's more affordable. It's more, all those things, but it's not a great design.
But I feel like that's only something that you and I pick up on. I wonder if people even know Steve Jobs is dead.
No, I think that
I'm exaggerating. I'm not saying that consumers don't know Steve Jobs is dead.
No, but I think that while we may be consciously aware of these things and be able to like think critically about them and have a discussion, and other people might not be able to do that because they haven't invested the time to learn the stuff that we've learned about it, they still have an ability to sense like something is just not quite as awesome as it once was. the iPhone 10 was the first time that I felt like they went back to a design that was like, now this has mojo. The iPhone 10 design, you know, discounting the notch for your sake,
It's a beautiful phone,
it's a beautiful phone.
which is why I'm so upset about the notch. Like, on a phone that looks like that, the notch is nothing but a design oversight.
I think it's a design compromise that they made for features.
Under
And
pressure of the market.
yes, and it's
Good
not
old,
a
good old
choice that
Sammy, ruin everyone's day.
it's not a choice that Steve Jobs would have allowed to be made.
Oh no. I love how we mentioned that, but like we're not allowed to say that because we don't know. We don't know what Steve Jobs would have wanted.
Well, I mean, I've been a follower of Steve Jobs throughout his career. I've studied him. I'm interested in him. I've tried to understand how his brain works or worked, I guess. And he wanted perfect design that would do things perfectly. Like all you have to do is go back and watch one of the two like mediocre Steve Jobs movies, and look at how much. I mean, they're based on fact. Look at how much he freaks out over like fonts. Like the Apple Lisa didn't have other fonts, and he like fired a
Yeah,
guy.
you can choose the font. Yeah.
It's like if he cared about fonts like that, then something as ugly as the notch,
and like
he would have fired the whole iPhone team.
That's okay. That's fair because today, so the beginning of the show, we just mentioned the 10-year anniversary of the App Store that changed everything. There's nothing Tim Cook has done that 10 years from now will be like, wow, this is the 10th anniversary of the day Tim Cook did this.
Yeah, I mean maybe like singing with that guy in the car on the way to the. I don't know. Tim Cook is.
Oh look, Brian's here. Great.
Oh, I see. Yes. Well, I think we've continued to beat this horse. It's months before the phone comes out. The horse is going to be so dead by the time the phone actually is a physical thing that we can hold. But I do think that it's. I mean, you make really good arguments about why you feel the way that you feel about what this version of the phone can do, and I feel the opposite way. And I just think that's. I just think it's really intriguing.
It's not intriguing that you're wrong.
See, but you can't say that I'm wrong, right?
I can. Oh, I can and I will.
But that's you being hyperbolic in your own way. Because you know that you can't tell me I'm wrong because nothing is there to be said. Right.
Tim Cook, I can call him right now. He already knows.
Well, oh my. So Andrew Edwards was like, well, I know this because I have.
I don't care. Can I tell you a fun fact? I don't care about anything Andrew Edwards says ever.
Fine.
Can't believe I said that live on the air, but I don't care.
Well, I mean, his argument nearly devolved when we were talking on Twitter. He said he wasn't arguing with me. He has connections at Apple and at Foxconn, and he knows
the same reason he argued with me about YouTube tags today, because he was invited to a YouTube masterclass and he has a YouTube partner manager.
Yeah. So that's like,
Sam Jones is
that's
great.
an argument that you can't argue. It's like, oh, well, you know special stuff that I can't know. So, okay.
Yeah. The fact that you're a 203-year-old wizard makes me not really be able to question you.
And yet you do.
And yet I do. It's because I made you, okay? I made you the 203-year-old wizard that you are. I added so many years onto your life.
But did you? Or was there a master plan in me going on vacation and asking you to take the reins?
Yeah, that is true. Maybe maybe there's forces under my control that I just am not ready to admit.
Yeah, it's entirely possible. But anyway, we've beaten this Apple horse, and we will continue to beat it. We need content. Apple's always good for content. But
always.
Maybe at this time we should wrap up the podcast that's now been going on for like 2.5 hours or something.
And by the way, I love you. I just want to say I love you. I don't want you to think that I think any less of you because you're wrong.
Uh-huh.
No, really. Just because we disagree and I have counterpoints doesn't mean that I
know. I love you as well. And just because you're pig-headed and don't really want to see the way things really are, then it's okay with me. You can have these blind
I
spots.
can wait. I can wait. I can wait.
We'll both have to wait.
I'm a young boy, Jason.
I know. I could very
I'm but a young boy.
Very realistically, I could be your father.
That is very, very realistic, though, for real.
Yeah. Like, if I had a child when I was 18, that child would be older than you.
And my dad's dead. I've actually never physically seen my dad.
Oh, jeez.
So there's nothing really, and like, I could kind of look like you if we squinted just the right way.
Yeah. I'll be your father figure, if that's what you want. I'm going for the George Michael quotation. I will be your father figure.
And so the podcast ends with Jason as my dad.
Yeah, thanks for stopping by and listening to this incredibly long version of the Painfully Honest Tech podcast. If you made it to this point, then you obviously had a long drive. But we've been having a lot of fun.
I really hope that people listen to this whole thing, because this was the best back and forth discussion on the stupid 6.1-inch LCD iPhone that I've heard yet.
It's because you and I are smart.
We have a special wizard chemistry.
That's right. Yeah, that's right. I'm the wizard. I'm not going to say you're my apprentice because you have powers all your own. But there's a lot of wizardry going on.
Something's going on.
Yeah. Anyway, so thank you for listening to this Painfully Honest Tech podcast. I know it was probably a painful experience, but man, I really enjoy having these conversations, and that's why I do a podcast. I'm glad. Thanks, Jon, for coming on. We're going to do a little bit of post show here afterwards. Talk to the people in the chat a little bit more, and enjoy ourselves. But if you want more of this kind of content, I've got people like, as long as I can get them nailed down, I've got people like Flossie Carter coming on, Justine coming on. I've got Michael Fisher, Mr. Mobile, booked for the 24th of this month, and I'm going to be bringing in more and more people to talk to. It won't be as awesome as talking with Jon, but
no one could ever be as awesome as you and I, though, if we're being honest.
But honest, if you've made it to this place in the podcast, please go to iTunes and
Spotify now.
iTunes and Spotify, and is Google Play,
Google Podcasts, Google Play, both the thing, because Google doesn't know what they want.
Stuff there. You can rate, you can leave some sort of feedback, which would be awesome. All of those things, the engagement that you get with the podcasts in those areas is what sends the podcast up the ladder. So if you enjoyed what you heard today, it would be really great if you could go and do that. Otherwise, I have to say thank you to myself for being here. Thank you to Jon for being here. And, until next week, this has been the Painfully Honest Tech Podcast, a tech podcast so honest it hurts.
You got it. That was it.
Until next time, I'm out. But I'm not really out. We're still here.
Yeah.
We're still here. We're still talking. We got 97 people. 97 people.
Oh.
And it's, we didn't get to talk about the alligator.
What's the alligator?
The one like weird thing that I put in the Flipboard thing is like, after an 8-year search, Australian Rangers capture massive crocodile.
What? That was in our show notes.
It was. Yeah, I mean, this alligator weighs 1,300 pounds. Crocodile weighs 1,300 pounds. It's 15.5 feet long. And the previous, so it's 4.71 meters, for all you people who aren't American. And for us Americans, 15.5, whereas the previous record holder was captured in 2011 at 4.6 meters. So basically, they have been hunting this thing for 8 years. They first saw it in 2010, and they were like, that can't be good.
That can't be good.
Because people are out and about around here and 16-foot crocodile is probably not healthy.
So large. Yeah,
So
it's not good for
so
anybody.
I read that story this morning and was
Probably
like,
not even good for that crocodile, actually.
maybe not. I have no idea. They're like prehistoric
Like
creatures.
7-foot people aren't always the most healthy people. There's always usually problems that they run into eventually. I'm sure it's the same with that crocodile.
I don't know if it works the same for crocodiles.
Probably.
But,
I can only guess.
but there's a picture of him in there. They have his whole face tied up with duct tape. Which reminds me of something that I saw in a gift shop on the way home from vacation.
What?
It was a t-shirt that said, if you can't fix it with duct tape, you're not using enough.
I mean, that's true.
Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. So, it's like, I mean, duct tape is the solver of all problems.
High Desert Garden said, can you trust Painfully Honest Tech?
I already did that, man. John covered that. John covered that. You got to go back and you got to watch it and you'll know. But short story long story short, I'm a 203-year-old wizard.
Man. I have to pee really badly.
Okay.
So I'm going to pee and then come back, or I'll just pee my pants here. I don't know. Which is more entertaining?
I don't know, man. Don't you carry a piss bottle to your desk?
No. I'll be right back.
Flip it out the window.
Entertain the people.
All right, I will. Yes. So we've got, I see Viper, I see Molko, I see Mr. Tech. You got who has a question for John, but he just went to pee. Yeah, duct tape and WD-40 are like the magical elixirs of modern life. I firmly believe that. Can you fix the Nintendo Switch with duct tape? It depends on what's broken. So, I would say yes. Entertain us. Do I not entertain you? What's my favorite? So, Mr. Tech, you asked, what's my favorite non-tech YouTube channel? Crap, I'd have to look at my subscriber, the subscribe channels to figure that out. I know there are some, at least a couple. I can't think of what they might be at this point. Let me see if I'm going to go to my YouTube feed and see what it shows me, and maybe that'll give me a clue. So, okay. Let's go down here. Let's refresh. I don't know.
Okay.
Oh, Pittsburgh Dad. Pittsburgh Dad is my favorite non-tech YouTube channel. And it's only because I grew up in West Virginia, an hour away from Pittsburgh. And basically, this is a guy who's been doing this thing where Pittsburgh has a very particular dialect and, sort of accent to how they talk. And so this is a guy, it started out, he would make videos about like this week's Steelers game. And now he's branched out into like other types of entertaining Pittsburgh type stuff. So Pittsburgh Dad is my favorite non-tech YouTube channel. What about you, John? That was Mr. Tech's question to you before you went for the piss take.
I can't say what my favorite channels are because they're political based.
I stopped watching those. I seriously can't deal with politics at all anymore.
My favorites were like, I really loved Vsauce. Like that was my favorite channel till Michael stopped, doing anything. Rob Dyke was another one. Both some of my favorite creators have stopped making content the way they used to.
Yeah, I really like the Rob Dyke stuff.
Yeah,
I like that whole genre of like creepy unsolved mystery type stuff.
Yeah.
I watch a lot of that stuff. I'll go down a rabbit hole of that. I'll go down some really weird rabbit holes. Like I've gone down the rabbit hole of watching people have sebaceous cysts drained.
What? You're one of those people?
I guess I am. I've gone down the rabbit hole of watching people have ingrown toenails taken out. I've watched spider bites. Anything
instead of ingrown toenails, I thought you were going to say intercourse.
No. Yeah. So anything involving pus, I can watch that and do it for longer than a healthy person should. But yeah, the unsolved mysteries and stuff like that. There's a Dark 5 is a channel that I watch from time to time. It's like it's all text with spooky music and just talking about weird things that happen. Am I gonna pre-order any of the iPhones? That's a good question. I mean, I'm really gonna have to see if, as it gets closer, do I feel like I won't be able to get what I need on launch day. Um, I thought that, yeah, pimple popping is also a thing, that I will watch. But yeah, if I feel like, anything is not gonna be available, I'll probably pre-order it. But, like, last year, I was able to go walk into the store and get an iPhone 10 just off the shelf. And that was a whole like, I ended up with 2 iPhones and 1 got stolen. So,
What?
yeah, stolen by eBay scammer.
Oh yeah, I remember that. I
Yeah.
remember that. Yeah.
So, yeah. So, I'm gonna have to milk this iPhone thing from now until, like, November.
I mean, that's what iPhone season is what kind of blew up our channels last year.
That's right. Okay, Noah's asking again. 3 times he's asked this. Would you agree with me if I said Apple only released the iPhone 10 because everyone was telling them to? I don't know. Um, I think they wanted to do something to mark the 10th anniversary of the iPhone. I
Yeah,
think
there's only one 10th anniversary.
yeah, they kind of pussied out by not just saying that's what it was. And saying this is our 10th anniversary edition, and that would set it apart. And then whatever they decided to do this year, they could just have it be sort of informed by that design, but not tied to it. Like now we have some kind of this weird naming convention where it's like, is it the 11? Is it the 10s? Is it what? Yeah. If they just said the 10X is the special phone, and then went on from there, it would be cleaner. But I think they did
Yeah.
want to do something special for the 10th anniversary. So I don't agree with you, I guess is what I'm saying.
Michael asked if I'm pre-ordering any iPhones. So this will be the first year I do in a long time. I was an iPhone user
Gotta
for
get that
years and
orange
years and
one.
years. Huh?
Gotta get that orange one.
I gotta get the orange one. I gotta be the one orange one. No, I've been saying, I've always said this, but like I've been trying to get into people's heads because people are like, but you hate the notch. Well, first of all, I don't really have a choice right now. I mean, the Android market is flooded with them too. But I never left the iPhone. I left iOS. I was frustrated in the software, and they're fixing the software now. So they're starting to earn my interest again. I'm willing to go. I'm definitely getting an iPhone this year. I will buy the iPhone 10 Plus, and I will buy the 6.1-inch LCD model, the iPhone 9. Not an orange though.
If I'm making more money by that time, then I'll probably buy 2. Otherwise, I'll probably just have to buy 1 and bitch from afar about the others. So, because
You're gonna buy the new iPhones, return them, make a video about how you're returning them, then make a video about how you're buying them again because everything else sucks,
yeah, and then I'll basically
and you'll get scammed on eBay.
at a certain point, like this happened. This is the transition that happened last year. Like for the longest time, the narrative on my channel was these are the things I'm buying that I hope will be the things that I are good for me to use.
Mhm.
And then I started to become like totally schizophrenic. I was like, oh, maybe it's this phone. Maybe it's this phone. Maybe it's this. I'm not going to do that this year. I'm just going to like talk about each phone based on its merits, compare the
Why do you have an
phones
iPhone 7 now?
because we're moving. I had to free up some capital.
So you sold your other one?
Sold the Note 8.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, that's right. You got the Note 8 again. Gotcha.
So this thing was like less than $600. Or it's
Did
32.
you just buy it outright?
No, I put it on the plan with the plan of buying it outright.
Gotcha.
But we've got to get some cash together for the move. So I'm trying to like
Adult stuff.
yeah. Yeah. Like I even went as far as to like give over all my AdSense money and everything toward the house buying
Mhm.
cause, which, usually I would be like, "Oh, but I gotta go buy this thing." I don't need to go buy anything anymore. I have bought enough stuff. I am banned from returning things at Best Buy for 6 months. So, I'm done. So, okay,
uh, what a
keep what are you
yeah. I think I did the same question you're about to read. I think.
is it the, Q's tech service?
Yep.
Let me read it then. John and honestly tech, okay?
They tried.
Do you guys plan on getting the Galaxy Note 9 between the been iPhone users for many years? Um, I got the Note 8 last year, mostly because I was a Note 7 buyer that got that $450 discount,
Yep.
and I've always been a fan of the Note line, but what I've learned over the past couple of years is the Note line seems like such a great thing. So feature packed and will help me with my life so much, and then I never take the S Pen out, and I don't use half of the features, and, 3 months later, I'm still using the phone, but I haven't, like, set up any shortcuts or any of that stuff, so,
Yeah. And it's gonna be the same thing
yeah.
as the
It's
Note 8, effectively.
yeah,
Bluetooth compatibility on the S Pen, but whatever. I think
I
it's
mean,
really,
what
really cool that you can use that. You'll be able to use the S Pen as a remote control to take pictures from a distance. I think that's really cool.
that is yeah,
That's about it, though.
that's not the reason to buy a $900 phone, though.
Yeah. Yep.
Um, if I have a chance to get one just to fool around with it, then I might, but, I'll definitely cover it and sort of give my thoughts on it and opinions, but that doesn't necessarily mean that I have to go buy it.
Yeah.
I
Keep
I'm
it and use it.
I'm really looking forward to the V40, even though
What?
I know at this point, like, I love the concept of these LG phones. I love the quad DAC. I love the fact that,
Mhm.
they're purpose made for being content creation and consuming devices, and nobody else is doing that. I love that. But I've pretty much resigned myself to the fact that LG cannot sell smartphones. They
No, not to
they
save their life. It's like HTC. HTC makes pretty decent stuff, but they can't sell a phone to save them. Literally, they're dying.
yeah.
They're
No,
gone this time next year if they don't figure it out.
well, they're mostly owned by Google at this point, aren't they? Like,
Well, specific team from HTC, the design team, I think.
yeah. So, I mean, if Google owns your design team, you're halfway dead anyway. You know, that's like the rest of the
Yeah, you
company
already
is on
sold
life
your
support,
assets.
but
Yeah,
it's brain dead.
you have the building, but you sold everything inside.
Yeah, it's like, oh, we're just keeping it on life support. Brain death has occurred.
They bought the design team, and yet the Pixel 3 XL is gonna look like a pile of shit.
It seems that way. It certainly seems that way. Um, Google cannot do hardware to save their effing life.
And they should be the one company doing it. Like, I don't need them to sell a bunch of devices. I need them to be like, okay, here's the standard of Android devices. This is how it should look. This is how it should run.
Yeah, I mean, the whole reason that they went from the Nexus line to the Pixel line is that, like, we're gonna make a premium flagship that is the benchmark for what Android is supposed to be every year. And they have not successfully made that amazing. I mean, the Pixel phones are good phones. Don't get me wrong. I really enjoy my Pixel 2 XL. I gave it to my wife. She really enjoys it. Um, but all of those phones have had problems that phones shouldn't have in this day and age. You know,
Yep.
the screen problem is a thing, and
There
now
was no excuse for the flagship, Google device, the Pixel 3 XL, to ship. Number one, a lot of them shipped without without
without
Android.
the
Like,
OS on.
how does it even happen? But yeah, the display issues were just that's embarrassing. It had to get through two phases of quality control there. That got through LG and Google, and they sold it. Zach, I think, bought like 7 or 8 of those phones.
Yep.
trying to get one that didn't have the awful display.
When I got one for the second time, I was just like, I looked at it. I'm like, yeah, it's there. It's not as bad as it was when I got one close to launch. And after a little while, I didn't I didn't see the problem anymore. But that's not an excuse
Yeah.
for.
The same way people don't see the notch anymore.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
the notch the notch was a compromise that we can have an argument back and forth whether or not Apple needed to make that compromise. But the blue screen shift was just a design, an error. It was a mistake. It was
Yeah.
not correct.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
none of the but like, okay, so High Desert Garden mentioned, like, it's what I mentioned earlier about why use the best software if you or the best hardware if it doesn't have the best software. And that's totally we're not in a hardware game anymore. That's just not what we're doing. It's not the thing. It
Yeah.
hasn't been a hardware game for many, many years, despite what OEMs want it to be. If it was a hardware game, everybody, uh, Apple probably wouldn't be top seller. It'd be every other Android manufacturer that releases these phones with like 8 GB of RAM and something crazy. But it just doesn't matter. None of that matters.
Well, and also I think that the fact that it's software and not hardware that matters is part of the reason why I think Apple's being desperate with these colors. But we don't have to get back into that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, hardware is no longer the frontier.
No.
And I don't really know if like they're a big AR is going to be a big innovation in software. But there's going to come a time in like 2 to 4 or 5 years maybe when smartphones aren't going to be the news anymore.
Right.
And we'll have to find something else to cover, John.
But painfully honest spoons.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, there's been this, PCs were the big deal for the entire decade of like the 90s and into the 2000s, right? So Macs and PCs and all that. And then that plateaued and has remained plateaued. I mean, there's talk that even PC sales are off. They're falling, even though gaming on a PC has become has become like more popular, and there's a move away from consoles. But now computers are just they're utilitarian. Although Apple really does a good job of making you feel like you've got to get this year's model every single time.
Right.
Yeah. Which is an incredibly expensive.
But that's just the average consumer. They are the ones that dictate the market, and the average consumer is totally served perfectly fine by having one of these in their pockets, and they can check Twitter, they can check Facebook, they can do emails. It's all right there. They don't need
Right.
why would they need a desktop or a laptop for that matter?
I would love to be able to argue that like desktops, laptops, et cetera, are obvious. Like they're ways of expanding your, like, you start from point A and these give you an opportunity to expand beyond point A, whether it be creative or,
No, I
something
mean,
else.
yeah, for you and me.
But
I feel like these things are always going to have a place, but like the market, the average consumer doesn't need them.
see, I'm still weirded out by this average consumer idea.
I don't know how though. That we are disproportionately outnumbered by just regular everyday people. Like I said before, they aren't dumb. We are the weird ones.
Right. I mean, I get that. But and I know Zach was giving some examples of like his sister, I think he said his sister or something like that is, I just I guess it shouldn't be surprising to me because nobody that I know gives two craps about any of the stuff that I'm like crazy about.
That's the
But
point, right?
yeah, and when I start talking tech to people, it's like all of this you can see the faraway look come.
Yep.
It's like, oh,
but
it's got
like
X
it's
number of gigabytes
a
of
lot
RAM
of
and it's
my
got and
a lot of my viewers, right? If Viper's still watching, I'll point him out. They have this assumption that the market is the subscribers on some YouTube channel somewhere, and that's just not the case. These average consumers, they're not looking up this stuff on YouTube. They're not doing the research. They just buy a new iPhone. That's what they do. There's no deeper thought there. Like, there's just not.
See, I think one of the reasons that, that it gives me pause is that I think it's also average consumer also has some tie to socioeconomics. Like middle to upper class, upper class people can be more engaged with these things because they're within reach. And yes, it doesn't matter what creed or color or anything that you are. If you have money, you feel entitled to having these fancy things. So,
my God, I'm gonna strangle Viper. I'm going to do it. So I'm gonna have him call in during the post show of our recyclement on Saturday, and I'm gonna give him the platform to explain how in the hell the average consumer is not the average consumer. And I'm never going to argue the fact that there's a core customer base there that is not if I strangle you first. I'm never going to argue that there's a core audience or a core customer base that does need the greatest thing from Apple. And they will always buy Apple, and that's totally loyal, and they understand everything. That's us. We're talking about us, the people in chat. I don't know if you know this, but there are far more people buying Apple products than are in this chat right now. Far more. They're just regular, everyday people. And I know there's people that line up, and you have those really dedicated fans. I will definitely agree that there's more of a loyal fan base to Apple than anybody else. Else. But there is a separation.
Yeah. And I think, okay, so I'm gonna try and sort of bring the two things together. Like Viper used the part of my video from the other day that talked about who the actual consumer of Apple products is. Like, what is their demographic? What is their what is their market skew? Right? And it's a definite type. And I think those people, I mean, you can aggregate them into a pretty strong base. And yes, not just those people are buying Apple products, but I would venture to guess that maybe not a majority, but a large percentage of Apple's customers fall into those demographics, and Apple completes a narrative for them. But
like that argument, this whole bullshit thing of Apple's demographic skews this way is the same thing as this year the average sales price increased for iPhones. It's not because people are willingly spending more money. It's because that's the price of the new iPhone now. Apple there's not a choice. Like, and people can say, oh, Apple's given a choice before. There's choices now. You can get a cheaper phone. But there has never been a cheaper phone that is lined up with the new flagships of the year. Every single time. The iPhone 5C was plastic and looked bad and was bad compared to the other things. The real reason Apple failed to sell these products before was because their value on these products was, oh, it has the specs of the previous model. Like the iPhone SE looked 2 years older, but they were hoping that because of the specs on the inside, it would still sell well. And you know what? That is a really, really good phone. The iPhone 5 or the iPhone SE is an amazing device, but it's only for the people that actually are willing to put it in their hands. It's like this. It's the same argument I get for it doesn't matter how great your YouTube video is if no one sees the video. That's the same issue here. The average consumer, they will never be sold on the value of, well, it has really like upgraded specs in it, and it's just the specs of last year's phone, and it's cheaper. That will never sell, and it's proven that doesn't sell. They don't know. They don't know that there's what processors in it, A10 chip. They don't know anything. They won't know. And if they ship this, what are we up to now? What's going to ship with the iPhone
The
11,
A
12,
12?
whatever.
I think it's the 12, yeah.
And if they put the A11 chip or even A10 chip in the 6.1-inch phone, no one will know. You and I will know. We're reporting
Okay.
on it.
See, I'm gonna disagree with you here. I think if they dumb down the specs on the 6.1 further than just, like, the screen technology and losing a camera
If
lens.
if you think people are gonna recognize an A11 chip or an A10 chip over an LCD display, you're nuts.
I'm just saying,
You're nuts.
it's
You are
been
nuts.
said to me many times by people trying to defend this 6.1-inch, um, Skittles iPhone, uh, that the reason the 5C failed was because it didn't have the current specs. That
That's
has
not
been
it.
the narrative that has been put in front of me as
The
the
iPhone
explanation.
5C failed because Apple is selling these amazingly well-designed metal flagship phones, and then they put out this bullshit plastic thing. That's what happened.
I kind of like the iPhone 5C.
It's the equivalent of, like, in a day and age where you're giving out DVDs, someone comes up and says, yeah, well, the movie's on VHS too, and hoping it sells because it's cheaper. No, not the way it works.
But if it was blue or pink,
That's not this. This is not a plastic blue or pink phone.
well, we don't know that, do we?
We do know.
Uh,
We do know. If we're
there are so many ways this could go wrong.
if we're even playing with the idea of the 6.1-inch phone existing, we can't stop ourselves and be like, well, we don't know if it's not plastic. If we're even going to accept the idea in the rumor that there is a 6.1-inch phone that exists, we can't cut ourselves short and be like, well, we don't know if it's metal.
All I'm
If we're
saying
going to
is
accept the rumors at all, we accept them all the way.
there are still so many variables out there that can either help or hurt what this phone's going to be. I mean, if they take away 3D touch, I think that's going to
cares?
I mean,
Dude, nobody knows 3D touch even exists. That is one Apple feature where you have to tell them it's there. No one intuitively does that. Everything about Apple software has been so intuitive. There's nothing intuitive about 3D touch. You got to tell somebody that it's there.
oh, dude, I use it all the time.
You do?
Because it repositions the cursor if I need to correct things.
Okay, I have a question.
It's
How does
so
3D
much better
how does
than
3D touch work?
you press the screen.
No, what makes it work?
I don't know. The screen.
You and I, people like us, we understand 3D touch, and we understand that the actual display is able to translate pressure into a software something.
Yeah.
Something happens in the software because of pressure. The average person, they don't know that. It's just a thing. It's just a screen. They don't know.
That doesn't mean they don't know the feature.
But you have to tell the people that it's there. If you handed them a phone, okay, if no one said anything about 3D touch, okay, and everyone got an iPhone, everyone's going to be able to mess with the software, and they're going to be able to understand every feature of the software, how to take a picture, how to edit the picture. But I guarantee 10% of those people actually find 3D touch and know it's there. No one knows.
I would love to know some actual research about this, because
we missed the mark. We got to give a bunch of people who have never seen it iPhones, and don't tell them that 3D touch is there, and see how many people will know to even instinctively go, wonder what happens if I press a little harder. Nobody knows.
But now that's a pretty ubiquitous feature on a lot of phones, not just Apple. I mean, in fact, I think that, if I recall correctly, Android phones had a similar feature before 3D touch existed, right? So
another reason why we don't need the actual physical hardware to be there. Is it better? Is it a better experience that way? Yes. But could the average consumer be served just the same by just holding a little bit longer? Probably.
I don't know. Again, this average consumer thing is really bothering me. But for me,
wait, okay. Why is the term average consumer? Why does that bother you?
Just it has connotations of, like,
when I say average consumer, nowhere in there am I saying broke ass bitch.
I know that, but it seems like such a blank generic term that it's been used a lot. to describe something that it's not efficiently or effectively describing. I don't know what it is.
What? The average person?
What is that?
A person that just buys a phone, not us. They don't know anything about
Okay, so
what's inside
there's
the phone.
a lot below or above, not us.
But the majority of people are those people.
Okay, but how does that make them average?
I'm agreeing. There are people below the average consumer that really don't know anything, but those are also minority people. We are a very, very tiny portion of these people. People that we do this as a job on YouTube. We talk about this nonsense, and that's us. And then there's people that subscribe to us, but there's far more people that have no idea. Apple sells there's a crazy market share there. We're talking about nearly 100 million devices, almost 150 active devices, million. And you could not possibly argue with me that there's 156 people like us, 156 million people like us.
No, I don't think that there's 156 million people like us, but
Viper! I'm gonna kill him. It's been used incorrectly to the typical. There is no such thing. The typical Apple customer is not us. They're not subscribed. They're not watching this right now. They're sitting on some couch somewhere. They don't know that they have which iPhone they have. I guarantee the typical Apple customer, if you line them up and you show them an iPhone 6 all the way up to an iPhone 8, they won't know which one is what. It all looks the same. It's the new iPhone.
I'm not sure about that, but let's not go further. So
you're closer to the average consumer than I am, Jason.
Why?
I'm ashamed because you have a family of people that like you interact with far more people every day than I do.
You're assuming that I interact with people.
I might be wrongly assuming, yes.
But there is absolutely nothing like quote unquote average about me, my family, or anything like that. I mean, and I'm not just saying I'm a special snowflake or anything like that. I'm like, when I hear average consumer, I think of a certain, like, there's a typical, like a certain kind of avatar that encapsulates that, and I just don't know what it is. So Zach asks, like, would working class be better? I mean, no, it wouldn't be better, because working class is, well, we all know that there is no working class anymore. But it's yes, John.
Derek Williams says the typical phone user definitely knows what they have. That's why they buy in the first place. You're wrong. That's not the truth at all. The average person is not going on YouTube. There are a lot of people. I'm not arguing that there are millions of people that look at YouTube videos and they research before they buy, but there's far more people that walk into a store when it's their time. The average person is not buying an Apple product when Apple releases it. Those aren't the people paying attention. The average person buys a phone when it's convenient to them, when they have an upgrade, or when they break a phone, they need a new phone. And they walk in and they say, I want the new iPhone. That's what they do.
Yeah, well, I will agree with you on the first part of that, which is like the, average everyday Joe is not lining up at the Apple store before the store opens to get the new iPhone. But I think that's a really small cohort of people to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think that I just think it's more of a spectrum, as opposed to like any sort of like
I agree. There's a spectrum, but the majority of people in the middle, those are what we call average consumer.
I guess I just keep thinking about.
I'll call them whatever you want me to tell them, as long as they have a label.
I'm not into labels, man. I'm not into labels.
I'll just call them everybody else. People that aren't Jason Lewis.
Everybody else is fine.
Everybody else, okay. Everybody else. Average everybody else.
I also think about, Judner, your average consumer.
That's definitely not an average consumer person at all.
And see, that's sort of like what I was talking about with how the narrative that I kind of had with my channel was like me trying to find stuff that I would want to use and just giving people my opinions about it to begin with. I think your average consumer started with like, I'm buying stuff and I'm just going to tell you about it because you might be buying it too.
Yeah.
But now
It could be done at this
it's
point.
something else. Yeah. Yeah. So how did we get back on this topic, John?
The chat. They steered us right into a head-on collision.
Okay, because we've covered this ground.
Yeah, but new people come in and they pretend like they don't know, or maybe that is it. Maybe they have heard and they just want to stir the pot.
Yeah, they want to see us both slowly lose our minds,
which is happening. I'm going insane.
It's Viper's
and I blame Viper entirely. I'm gonna put him on recycle bin, and I'm gonna just I have a strong feeling that he's gonna make me have a total mental breakdown on the air. Like my brain is gonna turn into mashed potatoes and just fall out of my ear.
But at least you'll have dinner. Mr. Tech wants recognition here. He's yelling at us from the chat. He says he has 9 married siblings, and they're all clueless about the iPhones they have. Okay.
Well, I mean, that's I even though that's in my favor, that's arguing in my favor. I'm not going to judge the market off of your 9 siblings.
Yeah, I mean, we could explain that away to, like, shallowing the gene pool. 9 siblings is too many. but I'm sorry, it was a joke.
It was a joke.
Yeah, I mean, that's sort of the straw man argument that you can make, where it's like, well, my personal experience is this, and so this must extrapolate out to everything else.
Notice that, like, I'm arguing the total opposite direction I would normally go. I'm not the average consumer. I'm able to differentiate what I want from what everyone else is going to want. I want the iPhone 11 Plus or whatever the hell they're going to call it. I'm going to buy it, but I'm also going to buy the 6.1-inch iPhone. I don't care. Okay. I just want something running iOS, the new iOS that is fixed. Tim Cook.
Right. Okay, so Zach comes in, and now he works in this industry, so he has daily contact with this.
Yeah, but they're Canadians, so like,
I realize it's only worth like 2/3 of what real experience.
Those thirds add up. You know what I mean?
But he says when he talks to the customers and asks who's buying iPhones, they say almost all of our customers, but they're not attracted to the same model. And price point plays a big part. Now that makes sense to me. When you're talking about, like, okay, so there are the people who will have to have, come hell or high water, no matter what organ they have to sell, get the new bestest iPhone. There are those people. They are legion, but they're not everybody. On the other end, there are those people who want an iPhone and are going to say, well, I want one that's less expensive. Now, I might be on board with your prediction, John, if the 3 iPhones if the 3 iPhones that are coming out this year are the only iPhones.
They are. Oh, like they discontinue every other iPhone?
Yes.
But this isn't. Hey. This isn't about a cheap iPhone thing. If cheap iPhones were the answer, the previous models would be outselling every new model. That's not the thing. This isn't a budget iPhone. This is literally coming out with the current lineup, looks like the current lineup, and
except
cheaper.
Different.
It's not even a budget unless somebody feels that budget means $700. We can't call it a budget phone.
So maybe budget isn't the word that we're looking for. How do we get back to this again?
It's just headlines because it's a cheaper Apple phone, and so people just go, oh, budget.
No, I
budget phones are $200, $300 shit Android devices. Actually, they're not even that bad at this point. They're getting better.
Yeah. I think that what I'm thinking of as budget iPhone in the terms of this 6.1 is that it is not the equal in terms of materials, features, etc., to its stablemates of the year.
Mm-hmm.
And in that way, it makes it a step down.
But no, it's not going to be marketed as a step down. It's not going to be clear that this phone is a step down.
I just think that people are going to know.
Their spidey senses are going to be tingling. To clear up for Noah, Noah said, that's what I'm trying to tell Jern. There's no single Apple customer. I never said there was a single Apple customer.
Because they would be out of business.
I'm being very clear that there is a core Apple demographic, a core Apple customer base that will hop on the phone and is very, very passionate about Apple. There's more people passionate about Apple than, and no, I didn't know it. There's more people passionate about Apple than any other brand in the world. But there's more average consumers that are disproportionately. Apple customer. I'm not giving no. I'm not giving average consumer. That's not the label for Apple customer. There are average consumers that disproportionately outnumber us all in the market, not just Apple people. Every average consumer in terms of any piece of technology ever, and those are the people that outweigh us. There is not one Apple customer. We're talking about, we just saw it. Okay. We just saw with the iPhone 10. It outsold by a crazy amount, right? Every month. The sprint happened. Those really passionate Apple people that need the new thing and that understand what the iPhone 10 is, they bought it. But now it's starting to get outsold by the iPhone 8 because average consumers are taking over time that are just buying a phone when it's convenient to them.
See, now again, I'm gonna reference back to the conversation I had with Andrew Edwards, where he said that the cheaper or the cheapest iPhone of the year is always the biggest seller, and it's always been the biggest seller since the beginning of iPhone. And I don't have anything to argue back about. I mean, I could look up the statistics, but that seems
I'm not at all denying that there's segmented groups, but the group in the middle, the far majority of people, those are who I'm calling the average consumer. There are people that really don't care, and those are the people that will buy prepaid smartphones that just work. You know what I mean? They just need to work. Those are below average consumer. Above average consumer is us. People like us.
Maybe like, so we're at the lowest level. Anybody who's in this conversation right now could be considered a tech enthusiast, right?
Literally everyone watching.
Yeah. Anywhere from
the fact that you're even interested, that you know any of the words we're saying.
The fact that you've been sitting here for the better part of 3 hours, listening to us go in circles about this. So tech enthusiast is one thing, and it can exist in different levels. Maybe you're only an enthusiast for Apple products. Maybe you're an enthusiast for hi-fi, whatever.
I mean, there's people that know a lot more about technology than I do.
Yeah.
And that's fine.
Yeah. But I think below tech enthusiast is, people who maybe who are in the flow of the more typical marketing streams that pick people up and put them in front of an iPhone or an Android device or whatever. I mean, we can't discount that there is manipulation that occurs. Marketing is manipulation. Advertising is manipulation. It's, you have an agenda, you need that agenda to be fulfilled. And so you figure out sneaky ways to make people want to buy your thing. Yeah. Right. And Apple, for better or worse, has built this mystique about their company and their products that people buy into, I think, even unknowingly, because it's reinforced each cycle by.
Yep, absolutely.
So I think that you can be an Apple consumer, not be fully aware that that's what you are.
Yeah.
And still make all the moves that a tech enthusiast Apple consumer would make.
Yeah, I'm not arguing that at all. And the core base of my argument is that Apple targets the market the way they haven't in the past few years. This is a goal to reach new people. So even if we do disagree on what an Apple customer is, my argument still stands that they're trying to reach people that aren't Apple customers yet, or try to bring people back, because they're bringing me back. And if they're bringing me back, a tech enthusiast, I can only imagine how many millions of people they're gonna reach with this new product.
We'll see.
We will.
We'll see. So Rotario is talking about cutting, cord cutting and not watching television. And I've done the same thing. Like I haven't
Right.
had cable for over a year, maybe 2 years at this point. But I am still, and maybe it's because of my vested interest in technology. Like I'm still inundated with advertising. It's there on Twitter, it's there, it's on YouTube, it's wherever. And even
Mhm.
it's even like, somebody steals somebody's video and makes it an advertisement.
Right. So someone said we need a second opinion. Call Drew. Drew and I discussed the same thing over the weekend on my podcast, and he leans more in my direction. I think we still there's still hangups in term. He agrees with actually it's the opposite. He agrees with me more on the average consumer is and on what an average consumer is and who the Apple consumer is, but disagrees with me a little bit more on which product is going to outsell the others.
Right.
We have like a core fundamental difference in what I guess you just hate the label. You don't know who those people are.
I, it's like, it's a, I just see it as a spectrum. And I think there are so many different
Oh, you're
factors
right.
that
There
can
are
go into
it is a
where you
spectrum.
fall on that spectrum. That like one year you might be the average consumer, the one who just, is sort of going along with the flow and you get your new phone or whatever. But in a different cycle, it could, maybe you're right. Maybe this
Also agree
this
there.
new maybe this new phone activates another demographic that's like, oh, well, I always wanted an iPhone, but it always came in those boring colors.
Mhm.
Um, and
I needed an orange one this whole time. Thank you, Apple.
yeah, yeah, I love Skittles, and now they're Skittles iPhones. Uh, but
I appreciate that, Derek. Thank you, sir.
what this has been so engaging and heated and entertaining. That proves the two are the best. Yeah, I agree. I mean, John and I, we got to think.
It's very rare that two people can get this passionate about a thing, but then also be buds at the at the end of it.
Yeah, I mean, because oftentimes people's ego gets tied up in this thing.
Yeah, people their whole identity is this.
Yeah, if they can't be right and you can't be wrong, then they get aggro about it, and there's no need for that. I mean, that's not a good story. Like, you pissed me off because you don't agree with me. See, John and I are working on the long tail story here. We got months of this stuff to deal with.
Yeah. We're
So,
not even in the second act yet.
yeah, this is just like this is just the opening. The first aria is being sung. When it all comes crashing down in November, we'll be here to.
Well, that's another thing that like I appreciated about Drew was like as much as he's here. As much
Yeah,
as like and Drew and I have a history of
hey,
like
you got a check mark.
Drew does have a check mark.
Yeah.
Like okay, so there's you and I, right? That like we've always been buds and always agreed for the most part. But Drew and I started off on the wrong foot for a bunch of different reasons, but mostly because we never communicated directly. It happened between our audiences, really. And that's something that I appreciate that like he and I are really good friends now. And like the discussions, we can still disagree with each other and be fine. And he can make fun of me and I can make fun of him.
Yeah,
But like,
you guys' bromance is so cute.
isn't it cute? But
Oh,
like,
just
uh,
give me the butterflies.
that's what I mean. But like, that's very rare. Like, I just, I would actually include Viper in that too, because even though he started off as a fan in our community, and that's how I know Viper. Like, we're still cool. I don't hate Viper. He can be wrong and be my bud. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah, and that's the thing. Like, I'm interested in. So, I see like Front Page Tech, Painfully Honest Tech, Taylosive. There are some other, within the ranges of like 50 and 100 plus thousand tech channels that are approaching the conversation about tech differently than the channels that came before us.
Oh no, there's a whole new wave of tech coming, and
Yeah,
it's opinions over just like, and I blame that on like how consumable content is now. Like the stuff that the big guys that exist now, the stuff that made them popular, these days you can just get in a tweet or a headline now.
right.
It's just a different landscape now.
Yeah, and I think also like this is my background is I have a master's degree in telling stories, so I think about things like the early days of tech YouTube. The narrative wasn't as important because the products themselves were the story, right?
Mhm.
And now, like
Yeah.
as we've talked about, like the hardware is nowhere near as engaging as it was 10 years ago.
Oh yeah, we're in a software game now.
And so I think talking about and engaging our opinions and really sort of exploring it in this different way is what's driving the narrative. Like I'm not I definitely hope that this never becomes anything like Drama Alert, but none of us are as stupid. None of us are as stupid as
Drew and I
Keemstar.
got close. We got close, and you threw yourself in there too. All the
Yeah,
response videos back and forth. We got real close.
yeah, but you know, I was just I just thought it was funny. So
Oh, I was heated. Oh,
yeah, I know
ugh.
you're young yet. You still have all that
Oh, hush your
testosterone.
mouth, old man. Isn't it past your
It's
bedtime?
it is past my bedtime, but that's okay. Um,
Ugh.
but yeah, I mean, and I tried to watch an episode of Drama Alert the other night. Keemstar is a drooling idiot. I can't even imagine how he puts words together to form
Uh,
sentences. And yet,
you put into words what I've been like what I've thought for years is that he can't actually say drama alert.
he
Like
can't.
he can't physically say the words.
He says Drama Alert.
D-R
I mean,
AMALERT.
he spells it where the two words are put together, but I'm
Mhm.
not going to give him the credit of being like, you know, I'm saying it this way because I cleverly spelled it that way. I just don't think he can separate the A's.
Appreciate that, DNF magazine. He said, Jason and John, remember to some of us, you guys are the big names. And I mean, we
Well,
are,
yeah.
but
Thank you.
there is a comparative nature there. And like, there's always people we look up to and that are always going to be bigger than us. And those people are,
And
Marquez.
but I think now in some weird way, like my Can You Trust video series has actually created a conversation up that line where like I'm I'm engaging with the people that I'm making those videos about. And before that, it felt like there was definitely like, we're on the fifth floor and they're in the penthouse. And we can't get there because our key card
So you
doesn't work.
fired shots up through the floor. That's what happened.
Yeah, of course. And some people don't understand why I do that series. They think but the real reason I do it is because I think that all of this stuff should this should be a conversation that involves everybody. If the people on the top of the mountain aren't also communicating and letting us know what their experience is and how they're dealing with stuff, then it's just like with religion, we'll make up stories,
Right.
you know? And that's why
Jesus.
that's why the thing with Marquez is so important. It's
Yeah.
important that he actually came out and said, "What the hell is this?
Yeah.
I didn't do this." He could have just sort of let it slide.
Yeah. Could have.
But I've been advocating for guys up there in that echelon to actually engage, and
I haven't even, this is like totally off the thing, but like, I'm nervous because I haven't seen the show yet. It has 8,000 views, real-time views in 2 hours. Exactly 2 hours since it came out.
okay.
So I'm worried because I haven't seen it. And that
I
now it's totally removed the opportunity for me to be like, something's messed up, Brian, fix this and we'll re-upload it. Now that's over. Now it's gone. It's just out there in the ether. So hopefully it's a good show. I haven't seen it yet.
I'm sure it's fine, John.
You don't know.
I wouldn't worry
Do you
about it.
ever want an editor?
Do I want an editor? Yeah.
Like, you ever
Well,
see yourself at some point just being creative and not being hands-on with editing?
yeah, definitely. Because for one thing, I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Everything I know about editing video was just like, I want to edit a video and I want it to look
Mhm.
like this. So how do I do that? I probably figured out the wrong way to do it, and then I do it.
For the
Um,
longest time, I was very, like, arrogant and selfish, and, like, I always had this feeling like I'm really, because I was hired by many, many brands to edit stuff for them. Like, I've made actual commercials for TV for Toyota. And
right.
like I always had this feeling like, no one else can edit my footage. Like, it has to be me forever and always, because only I understand. Because like, even for us, like, the joke isn't just
You're
in what I'm
calling me
saying, it's in
especially
the,
with stuff like
yeah, it's in the cutting of the footage. It's like the one frame makes a difference to me. And
timing
like,
matters. Yes, I
yeah,
get. Yeah,
but then like I think part of it is Brian was my best friend from high school, and he's been doing this with me and stuff, and just kind of letting, I think he gained my trust, number one, by being able to like copy my exact style, and he understands my humor, but is now to the point where he's a much better editor than I am and was. And like,
right.
having an editor that understands the vision of the whole thing is like one of the biggest stress relievers, best things I've ever done in my life.
Yeah, I know that basically I'm on this collision course between like maintaining the level that I'm able to maintain now, both with what I'm doing on YouTube versus the job that I have, you know,
Mhm.
and some point in the somewhat near future where it's going to be too much, like,
Which one?
well, either one, really. I mean, my job is my job. I've had it for 9 years. I'm fully like it's I've done the same thing over again for 8 different like academic cycles. So I've got that handled. And it's not nearly as like fraught with this or that is going to be really difficult. YouTube, like, I want to do more with my videos, and in order for me to do more with my videos, I know that I need people who are working with me.
Yeah.
Um, as I used to have that same attitude about like music. Like, I don't want a producer or an engineer or anybody to tell me what's going to sound good or bad or how I should play this or that. And then I suddenly recognized that, like, oh, collaboration actually does a thing where stuff gets better because other people have different brains. Um, and so I kind of just know that that's where I need to go, because I want to put my energy creatively toward taking the videos that I'm doing and making them the better version of those videos that I
Yeah.
know they can be.
That's definitely great about Brian, is like with literally every episode of Front Page Tech, you're getting two personalities, like two different perspectives
Right. Right.
of one piece of content. It's pretty great.
Yeah. And I was like, every once in a
Oh,
while I've had somebody reach out to me and say, "Hey, do you edit your videos? Do you want somebody to edit your videos?" Like last summer, a college student said, like, I'll do it for, free for a month and then whatever. And then like totally flaked out, like was just disappeared. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess that's not going to work out. And then I got an email from somebody who's like, "We're starting this new company where we'll edit your videos for you." Uh,
I remember that. Yeah, I
and
think I know what you're talking
you know,
about.
it's just a flat fee of $500 a month. I'm like, I'm
Like, you can have any corrections made,
yeah.
as many revisions. Yeah, I know
It's like, I'm flattered that you think I can afford $500 a month.
them.
But
That's number one.
yeah, but yeah, that's I can't make that kind of investment in editorial right
Um,
now.
to finally make Q's tech service be quiet, he keeps bringing up the right to repair, all that stuff. What he doesn't know is he didn't pay attention, and we've already talked about that stuff in our own videos, even separately and together. But
Okay, so
yeah,
what's the question?
the whole Linus situation.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, I don't know. I haven't seen the new Linus video, so I can't
It's
speak
nothing.
to
It's
that.
not different. It's just Linus defending himself, and then a cliffhanger at the end. We're still with the same like issue. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You know, I understand where Apple's coming from, and I understand why Linus feels the way he does. And I don't think either entity is coming out of this smelling like roses. You know, Linus is kind of coming off as a petulant whiner, and Apple's coming off as like this monolithic thing that doesn't give a crap about its customers. You
Yeah,
know,
but Linus, Sam Jones says Linus is wrong at the end. Nope, Linus isn't wrong though. That's the issue. There's a PR issue and there's a Linus issue. I think Jason's more correct in saying there's at the end of this, there's two people that are at fault: Tim Cook and Linus.
and you know that's just Tim Cook becomes the avatar for the fact that not only will Apple not repair the 5K iMac, they also or the iMac Pro, they in fact seemingly cannot repair it.
Yeah. Well, also, there's no denying that, like, especially. So this is the second video,
Yeah.
and he left it. There's a cliffhanger for a third one. So this we far surpassed the $5,000 or however much it is for the iMac. This is obvious a milking of the situation, but that's also fine. It's also entertaining. That's the problem.
All right, I'm going to stop right now. Mari QHD, I'm going to delete your comment. If I see any more homophobic stuff, you're gone. Okay? Because that's not cool with me. So let me get over
The
there
Jason Van Hammer.
and remove. There.
I saw
So
that in real time.
no harm, no foul this time. But that kind of stuff does not sit well with me. And I won't deal with it. Anyway, go on, John.
That's it. There's
So
yeah.
now you come back.
He's obviously milking the situation. That's what I was saying.
All right. So
But like, it's also entertaining.
I thank you for deleting that, Zach, because I was speechless at the freaking audacity
Yeah.
of this guy.
I've been dealing with him all day, dude. All day. This has been my life. This dude.
Well, Zach just hit him. Thank you, Zach. We can go on and have a conversation without that kind of bullshit. So what were we talking about? Linus.
He's also been dealing with Zach's been dealing with it all day, so I bet that was like a nice sigh of relief.
Very cathartic.
At the end of the day, Zach was victorious. Took 24 hours though.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think this whole iMac Pro thing has multiple fronts of like Apple's wrong for this reason, they're wrong for this reason. They have every right to.
I almost want to convince Drew to come on.
Drew, do you want to come on?
I would love, because outside of the the original video and then the response, I'd love to just have a discussion.
I can send a link. I can send a link.
He said no.
Oh,
just one word, just a no.
Come on.
Oh man.
Such a nice invitation too.
Oh shit. That was fun.
I could no. I could put little hearts around the
lower
URL. Anyway.
He's getting peer pressure now.
Now the peer pressure comes. I don't even have to say anything. I mean, this stream is like, so we've done the podcast. That's over. It's after midnight on a Tuesday.
It's 1:20 for me, 1:17. Sorry to be more exact.
But you don't have a job.
I'm a youngin', and I don't have a job. That's correct.
So I have to get up in the morning, but I'm never on time anyway. I'll be awake at 7 but I'll lay in bed until 8 or 9.
In the morning?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you going to sleep?
So, yeah, of course.
Is that planned?
Yeah. I always sleep. I'm too old to not sleep.
Oh, shit.
Are you yawning now?
Me? No,
Yes,
I was
just
yawning
you
earlier.
can watch the stream, Drew. It's totally fine. No pressure from us. Maybe we can plan something in the future where the three of us get together. How's that?
No, not the three of us. I don't like him.
Okay.
Just kidding.
I mean,
I'm trying the best I can to keep the meme alive at least once a day.
yeah. I mean, we have to keep people believing the myth when really we all know the bromance that is evolved.
There's no bromance. It's just hate. I think you're confusing love for hate or hate for love.
Okay.
Whoops.
Yeah. Well,
messed it all up.
I don't know, man. You say so. Yeah. Are you tired, John?
What, me? No, never tired.
Okay. I couldn't quite tell.
I know anytime I get on anything with you to just like prepare.
Strap in. We're going.
Strap in.
I could have driven to your house by now.
You probably could. Definitely, you would definitely be here.
Yeah. But oh, Zach is breaking out the Ginger Avenger. I hope Drew didn't take offense to that because that was like my favorite line of that whole video. Anyway, what do we have to talk about?
I think we've literally somehow talked about it all.
Yeah, we may have.
We've accomplished all that we set to accomplish and more.
Yeah, we argued with the chat. We banned someone.
We argued with each other.
Yeah, we did that.
Yep.
And yeah, I think 3 different arguments plus a ban. That's a pretty complete stream.
I mean, that's all you could ever hope for.
Yeah.
You go live.
There's
like a checklist, and those are all. We checked them all.
Yeah, yeah. The only thing that we didn't get to is like completely losing our mind and running around in circles and
I got really close though. You brought me right to the edge of total insanity.
Just that one little extra push. One little extra push. Anyway, folks, this has been awesome. Thank you all for sticking around. Anybody who was here before, thank you for stopping by. Drew, thank you for being here as well. And it's just nice to see you in the chat. Zach, thank you for moderating with such aplomb. And John, thank you for being a wonderful guest. As always.
Anytime, Sir Jason.
Yeah. We should do this more often. Cause
I'm down. I'm game, as they say.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll try and figure out a way to make that happen. And you guys all have a very good evening. I'm kind of, my eyeballs are a little swimmy right now. Go get coffee on me tomorrow. Thank you, Zach. Appreciate it. So yeah, I guess this is the end. This is Painfully Honest Tech.
Ending are always the worst. You just have to force yourself to hit the button.
I'm just going to do my thing. This is Painfully Honest Tech. Tech so honest it hurts. Thank you so much for being here. Until the next time, I'm out.